Welcome to the Moreland Township Board of Commissioners, June 9th, 2026, stated and advertised monthly meeting. Please rise if you can and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We have our two commissioners on Zoom this evening, Commissioner MUELLER and Commissioner CANALE. So the right of me is David Kitely, Esquire, from Prim Bean Thatcher, sitting in for John Rice, our solicitor. Thanks for being here with us tonight. Okay. So public participation on our agenda items will be taken as each item is discussed. Our meeting rules of conduct regarding addressing the board, if you did and were able to pick up an agenda, are on the back of the agenda. Just for residents in attendance, you'll see the podium at the front of the room. And we appreciate you coming to our meeting tonight, whether you're on Zoom or in the room this evening. If you'd like to address the board of commissioners, please raise your hand, whether you're in the room, or you can use the raise hand item on your Zoom screen, which will alert our assistant Leah to allow you to speak. If you're in the room, you can please join us when we call on you at the podium in the front of the room. In doing so, either on either venue, you please state your name and address clearly for the record for our assistant. Thank you so much. This is a business meeting, and in the interest of everyone's time, could you please limit your comments to 3 minutes per person per agenda? Thank you so much. Please be respectful and kind. We will start. The first item on our agenda, the first chair is covered by Commissioner Joseph CANALE, which is our Public Safety Committee. Joe, I guess you're still online, so you can cover that from Zoom. Joe, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Denise. First item on my agenda for this evening will be the firehouse presentation. I'm going to turn that over to Jamie Lynch.
First one's hearing.
I didn't know we'd be so quick.
Not a I didn't see it back there.
Jamie Lynch with CHA with Kevin Gottschall this evening. We're going to turn it over to Kevin, who's going to run through an update on the fire station project, where we are, and back for the last 2 slides.
Thank you. So I think the first slide, we were going to start off. I think it's always good to start presentations sort of reminding everyone what we're trying to do with this project. And of course, we're trying to create a healthy and safe environment for all emergency responders. We're looking for operational efficiencies, and that's both in terms of personnel between the 2 current stations coming together into 1 station, and also reducing the number of apparatus in the fleet, so we're maintaining a single fleet. We're addressing current infrastructure deficiencies and square footage concern in both the existing stations. And most importantly, we're creating a modern fire rescue building to serve both communities for the next 50 years. You're going to see as we go through the presentation tonight that the basic arrangement of this building hasn't changed much. So what we've really been doing since schematic design is developing it. And the team meets every 2 weeks. We bring in other consultants as we need to. We've talked about equipment, we've talked about furniture, we've talked about specific layouts, we've tested different ideas, we've made some subtle changes, but they're all sort of under the umbrella of what we've talked about last time, very much in line with at least the basic layout that we had previously. What we've really been focused on the last few months is developing the project. So at this point, we have a structural system for the building. We have mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems worked out. They're all part of the design, and they all allow Jamie's group to do a better job of pricing the job with more specific information. So I'm going to run through very quickly, and we reviewed this at schematic design. Just a quick layout of the current two sites for Bryn Athyn and Huntingdon Valley. Those are the two circles, top and bottom of the photograph. And of course, the intersection of Buck Road and Huntingdon Pike, which is the location of the site. If we go to the next slide, the specific site is the property that's currently at the corner, partially wooded, partially open, and it's the two residential properties that are off to the left that you can see as part of this diagram. Our proposed layout, again, very similar to what we were doing in schematic design. The station actually faces the intersection of Huntingdon Pike and Buck Road. You'll see that the apparatus bays are to the right of the plan, with the apron going directly out onto Buck Road. The intersection of Buck Road and Huntingdon Pike will be improved as part of this project. We have some special discussion for that we'll go into a little bit more detail. Parking is to the south, and there's a second road that links up with Huntingdon Pike. Again, for an emergency response station, very important that we have multiple access to every road that we can get access to. But the connection to Huntingdon Pike is mostly for return of apparatus coming back into the station and just the ebb and flow of traffic on and off the site. Of course, it does give us that second way if we need it. Just very specifically, Jonathan Bowman is here, that he can answer any specific questions about the improvement to Huntingdon Pike and Buck Road. But it will be improved to straighten out that intersection. It'll no longer meet at an acute angle. It'll meet at 90 degrees. And Buck Road will actually be raised up a little bit. So you'll actually have a little bit of a plateau there instead of pulling up and onto Huntingdon Pike. You'll come to that level and you can transverse onto that road more cleanly. It will involve a signal, and Huntingdon Pike is, of course, a PennDOT road, so it will require PennDOT approvals. But that's been part of the conversation as we go forward. Those contacts have been made at PennDOT, submissions have been made, and that process is going forward. If we look at the layout, again, the apparatus bay is to the right. That's the area in red. There's some storage rooms to the far end. That's for the SCBA air compress machine, engineer's office, some storage areas. You've got 6 bays of apparatus. What's shown on the drawing right now is the intended apparatus for the station after the two facilities have been combined. The area in red we refer to as the hot zone. This is the area where equipment that could become contaminated through fire with carcinogens, be a place for that equipment to be stored, cleaned, operated, and maintained. The blue areas are sort of the living and working spaces, offices, day room, meeting rooms. Those two areas are separated. So they're separated by walls, they're separated by mechanical systems to make sure that air doesn't go back and forth, that we keep the equipment in the hot zone, we keep the people in the cold zone for the most part. And the yellow area in between is sort of that transitional area where you clean your equipment, you clean your person, you store your gear. So that's sort of in between, because as you clean yourself, you transition to the greatest extent possible. We want to try to make that separation through the plan. If we zoom in a little bit to the blue area, we really have tried to scrutinize the plan and make sure that we're, I think you can advance the slide one. We've gone in and tried to make sure that we're providing exactly what's needed. There will be a public entrance. It's in the upper left. It'll face the intersection. There's offices off to the left side, 5. One is for the office manager, chief, assistant chief. There's an office for the volunteer chiefs. That's a combined office. And there's an office for the lieutenants, again, a combined office. There's a training room that's designed to seat 50 people. You can see that the layout's in there. And down below that is the day room, and down below that is the bunk room. There's 10 bunk rooms plus support spaces for laundry, storage, and other necessities. Above the apparatus, there's actually some storage spaces. The area in red are open mezzanines, and these would be places that you can store bulk items, be removable guardrails that you can lift pallets of things up and set them on those mezzanines. The blue area is actually cold zone storage and mechanical spaces, access from a single stair. So anything, files, extra uniforms, anything like that have storage spaces up above. Little diagram in the lower right just so it shows the training tower. That's dead center on the far right of the plan. It's within the profile of the existing roof. but it's multiple flights of stairs and a 50-foot elevation gives them the opportunity to hang hoses. I'm sorry, it's 25 feet between the floors. It gives you the ability to hang hoses and also do training. So there'll be an open area in the middle that they can actually practice working through confined spaces and dropping down through those through that tower area. One thing that was raised at schematic design was looking at the exterior of the building and seeing if we could do a little bit more to make it fit in with the vernacular of the area. So we did take a look at a lot of the buildings that are in this location, tried to pick up some of the elements of maybe introducing a little stone on the exterior, maybe laced with brick like you see in some of the images. We did actually bring in some stucco, might be a little bit of a balance, a little bit more stone on the front to make it blend in within the historic district, a little bit of stucco on the back to save a little money to hopefully justify the stone on the front. So if you advance the slide, you kind of see where we are with the design now. As you're looking at this, we've introduced those light areas or a little bit of stone that's introduced at the piers, at the apparatus bay, and at the entrance, and in that center sort of pediment front in the middle. Advance one more. This is a side approach at the public entrance, and you can see there's a little bit of stucco in the gable end beyond. Comes down and wraps with brick down below, and that wraps across the entire back of the building. So it'll be brick low for durability, it'll be stucco high, which will be cost effective. Try to save a little money there.
Stucco over block or stucco over?
It'll be stucco over block, so it'll be an EFIS system. So stucco, 2 inches of insulation, and CMU. So durable inside and outside, good insulation, low cost, and keep that in the air so nobody can damage it.
Styrofoam insulation?
Yeah. We don't, that stucco system actually comes in a number of grades. You can get very inexpensive.
Right.
You can get the better systems. We do the better systems.
So with the styrofoam, dampness can't get back in to pull that stucco off.
So it actually will have a drainage medium on the back side of it. So if water does penetrate through, there's a drainage medium on the back side that actually gets it out. That's kind of the way in the last 5-10 years that system's been going to try to get it to perform a little bit better.
Then you got the block behind it.
Then you got the block behind it. Moisture definitely won't get into the building. The issue.
No, it's the outside of
Yeah.
with the styrofoam.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
That's it. And just another image of the front and identifying that one historic artifact, because you have the bell that sits out in front of the Huntingdon Valley Station. Just wanted to give it a very prominent location. So we have sort of a low sight wall across the front location for that bell. And from the lobby area, you can actually see the bell as well. So hopefully we're getting some benefit inside of now. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie, who's going to talk a little bit about scheduling. Budget.
Thank you, Kevin. I don't know if I heard it correctly. You said that the intersection would be signalized, and it's not a signal, it's a preemption signal.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that I heard that correctly. So there's not a traffic light. When Bowman has taken a look at the intersection, it does not meet warrants for a signal, but there would be a preemption signal. So in the event of emergency, when trucks roll, then traffic would be stopped, just to make that clear. From a schedule and budget standpoint, this little fire station is quite complex. And we've talked before about the schedule requirements that include PennDOT and their review, the Conservation District and the NPDS permit review, and obviously getting the design completed so that we can go to bid. Presently, our schedule has not changed, and we're looking at getting ready to make submittals to PennDOT and to NPDS, a process that will take at least a year in order to get final permits for. And of course, we don't want to bid before we have final permits and all of their commentary. And so you can see the timeline that provided in the presentation here that we'd be starting probably in mid-2027. So from a schedule standpoint, we're still tracking all of those necessities associated with the site. From a budget standpoint, which is on the next slide, today's a snapshot in time, and we're high on budget right now. I'm sorry, the public can't read this from their seats. But if we look at the bottom line on budget, we have been talking about a $26 million budget. And right now, based on recent numbers, I'm tracking at about $28 million. I don't want to have everyone panic over that number just yet, because the team has to work on a number of areas. Taking a look at what the requirements will be simply for the Pike really makes things different from a cost perspective. So getting the feedback from NPDS, or excuse me, from PennDOT on what we do there is important. Same thing holds for what we do with the Conservation District. Mr. Woodrow has already arranged an initial call with the Conservation District for the concept that his firm has put together. And so far we're on track there. Obviously, we have to capture stormwater, release it at an appropriate rate. There's a number of ways to skin that cat, and there's a number of ways that DEP looks upon that. So we want to make sure that we get that through that process. We also have a couple of grants that are out there for the MTF grant and also the RACP grant. Not knowing exactly where those numbers are, we've tried to be conservative on the credits that are included in the budget for that. Of course, we would hope that they'd be more, but until that legislation for RACP passes and we get actually submitted for MTF, we have to keep those numbers conservatively low. And there are other opportunities for smaller firehouse related grants for equipment that want to be pursued. However, no applications have been put together for those at this point. Most of them will go for equipment that's included in our FF&E number, which is around $400,000. So that gives you a little flavor of where we are. Also included in the project budget is the demolition of the 2 residential structures that are on the property. We're seeking to put bid documents together to demolish those documents. We've also done some hazardous materials investigations for those homes and have some small scope to do some remediation before those structures come down. That would be work that happens before the project proper starts, and would also be a component of redeveloping the parcel, whether there's a fire station on it or not. And yes, I'll bite my tongue. I don't want to say that there won't be a fire station, but we still have work ahead of us. So that's where we are with budget and schedule at this point. Really, a lot of credit goes to the entire team, to Kevin, his team, their MEP consultant, Consolidated, Mr. Woodrow, Bowman. There are a lot of things at play here. I'm sure that you can imagine putting an apron out on Buck Road and then connecting Buck Road to the Pike has a lot of logistical items, turning lanes, preemption. Oh, and by the way, you know that there's elevated utility lines that come down Buck. They have to go underground. So the contacts have been made with the utilities to provide both service to the building and also begin the process of getting our utility to go underground and also Verizon to go underground on Buck Road. So a lot of things can happen that affect schedule, but there's also probably more here that affect cost. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. This evening, we plan to keep working on that number, come back to you to identify where we are with costs so we can continue on with design. Meanwhile, we're going to start our approval process, both with the township, the conservation district, PennDOT.
Jamie, thank you for that presentation. Kevin, as well. Open it up to the board at this time for questions.
You may have said this, but I didn't understand it, so I'm gonna just ask it again. What is driving the lifting cost at this point, and what are the techniques you can employ to help bring that back down?
So first, I want to continue to be as conservative as possible and not give you a budget that's not achievable. So it sounds like bad news, and I'm always the guy who says, all right, everybody chill out. Let's slow down on what we've done. First and easiest is to try to squeeze square footage out of the building. That's easiest for the stroke of a pen and for the architect to do. It's not so easy when it comes to the usefulness and the purpose of the building. And so we have to find those areas where we can reach a half line with all of the needs that the 2 stations put out for us. We've included a good amount of storage space, which is always something that stations like this need. We end up with 2 mezzanines as a result. So what can we do to make the arrangement more efficient? And so there'll be some tough decisions that we have to make in front of us. And then looking at what happens with the Pike. As far as PennDOT goes, there's really no arguing for PennDOT. They want what they want, right? You're gonna have a presentation this evening about intersections in the township. So I have to leave something for what they might ask for. We have to bring in structural fill to the site. You understand the topography that's there. We have to grade it in such a way that I can bring in structural fill. Where do we get it from? I could bring in engineered stone from a quarry, but are there other sources and other places where I could get it? That's where we get creative when we bid as to where a contractor will get this, the fill from. We know we have a couple of sources locally for soil that we'll need in order to get the site graded, and also possibly a couple of sites that have structural fill on it. And so that's a big variable as to what's available at the time of bid. The other thing I want to protect the township against is whatever's happening in the financial markets right now. There's a little conflict over in the Middle East, and if that was to be settled sometime soon, maybe that is a good thing for the project, but if it lingers on, obviously price of oil dictates price of construction generally. So doing our best, that's where we're trying to find avenues and also use bid alternates so that you can make decisions on bid day based on the cost as to what components to proceed with.
So if I'm hearing right, the plan itself is the thing that we have the most control over. We can decide what it is.
Mhm.
What is the timeline for that final decision? So that we know when, like, I'm trying to understand when are we too far down the road where that becomes not an option for us if we're continuing to see some of these other things develop?
We want to get it resolved this summer for you. I want to be back here at the end of summer to say we're in good shape. Meanwhile, all of the approvals will move. We have some latitude there as to what we can do with the building.
Is it your intention to have a plan for us to look at that accounts for the worst case scenario and all the other things moving forward? So that we can hopefully we can get to this place if in the worst case scenario.
Okay. Yes.
Any other questions from the board?
I have one question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I saw in the plan that there's budget for demolishing the existing Huntingdon Valley station and I guess that building. And is there a similar plan? Do we know what Bernathen is doing with their space?
We've covered the township's building right now. Bernathen's plan is Bernathen's.
Okay.
I've said that correctly.
Yeah, so Commissioner Mueller, because we own the firehouse here and that ultimately sits on the admin and police site, that's relevant to the township part of the project. The firehouse in Bernathen is owned by Academy of the New Church, is leased to the borough. Their borough office and police station is there as well. So that would really be an independent consideration for A and C and is not part of this project cost.
I might also note that that's a placeholder for the demolition of the building, but that demolition is not a part of the project design,
Right.
Just to be clear. So the disposition of that building is a separate discussion and decision for the township in the future.
That actually brings another question up, just so I can make sure I remember right. The total estimated project cost, is that all in? And then Bernathen will be providing, I can't remember if we established a ratio of contribution or that's yet to be established. And are these numbers our 100% contribution, or is this all in? We have to figure out
Yeah,
this.
so this is project cost. How you fund that is through bond issues and grants. So whatever the net amount is, that is the municipal responsibility is funded through the bonds. That is paid for in the 90-10 ratio between the township and the borough.
Okay, and that's established
Yes.
throughout the course of this whole project.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
On the external look of it, I don't even know if I should focus on this at this point, but I thought I might. So one of the reasons that you have brick is because it's more cost effective, is that it? Because if you look at the other buildings that you have, they're all stone and stucco. There's no brick. And then your building has brick, or at least red brick. Is that because of, to keep costs down?
Yeah, the stone is going to be more expensive than brick. And so we've tried to put some stone on the front blend it with what's happening elsewhere, but the brick is a little bit more cost effective.
What about going stucco on the front up top and having more stone in the front? I agree with Ruth on that, especially that main accent wall right in the front.
Yeah.
Instead of going brick there, add that to stone also. I mean, then do the stucco up higher and take more stucco portions. But again, minor, and I'm not sure if this is the right time.
I would think stucco
It's
is
definitely the
cheap.
right time. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to mock that up, you know, to produce those images so we can take a look at that.
Yeah, that would fit the neighborhood a little bit better.
Regular
the-
chalk.
Just all.
Yeah, that's it. You wanna put stucco there?
No, stone.
Stone on the bottom here.
Stone on the bottom, stone.
Where the
stucco
brick
up
is
top.
and stucco up top,
Yeah.
to meet the stone up.
Yeah.
And then how about the peaks, would they be stucco also? Probably.
Right.
It'll be cost-
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
cost
I'll-
effective. More cost effective.
I can work up some different approaches. It's the same massing, it's just how we arrange the materials, so.
Yeah, and you're saying
can
it's a
look at
little
some
bit more
options.
cost effective than brick, correct?
The stucco will
Yeah.
definitely be more cost
That's
effective.
what I'm saying.
than
It's
stone.
not go with stucco.
Right, we just don't want the stucco any place where someone would bump against the building.
Right.
So all the stuff up high,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right,
If we're
and in
going
the back,
back with
it's
stucco,
good.
then we should be good with that. Stone all down low.
So with the brick, there would be block behind the brick and then brick in front of the block. Instead, we'll remove the brick and put the stucco with the insulation and stucco, correct?
Right, up top, it would all be the same block wall,
Right.
stucco on the block and brick out in front of the block as a cavity wall.
So with brick and the stone, there's no maintenance. With stucco, what's the maintenance cost? Every 5 years, every 6 years? What is it? Do we know?
No, I don't think you'll see that. I think it needs to be cleaned now and then. You might have to resurface it, but I think you'd be talking about 20
That's right.
years before you'd be talking about that.
Yeah, it's not like.
So, I mean,
I want to
we're
see.
talking the savings with stucco here. Well, what's the savings? Is it big, huge, big savings, or is it minimal?
yeah, on the wall system, you know, is it $10 or $12 a square foot,
Right.
probably? Right, in
That's what
that,
I'm talking
in
about.
that neck of the woods, right,
Adds up quick.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, with the size of it would, yeah.
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 You know, the one thing that we did on the building that is absolutely the right choice is the roof is a standing seam roof.
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to an asphalt shingle, that was an easy one, and then everything down low wants to be solid. Whether it's brick or stone, you wanna take a look at what it looks like with stone, no problem to mock that up.
That would double, I mean, that would really make the cost go through the roof with stone, you know, right? I mean, I would prefer brick, Joe, before stucco. Because I do believe stucco is going to be a maintenance problem down the road. I mean, they say no, but if something, water gets behind it and it starts peeling back, where brick can take anything, you know? I mean, it's open for discussion, but in construction, and I've been doing it, a long time, and I've seen some of the houses that they built with stucco on it, and then they've always had problems with water getting behind it, and they came out with this new system, and they're still having problems, and it peels, and then we're constantly going back repairing it, okay? I mean, I'm the first guy in, I put the pipe in the ground, but I see it afterwards, and I think brick is just a better structure, looking at what they're doing here, I mean, I know it's costly, but I think in the long run, there's a savings there.
Probably give you a bit alternate too for it as well, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
different cavity system. But
Right, that's why I was gonna ask, can you do a bid, with stucco and brick?
We can talk about it. It gets a
We
little
can-
complicated,
Yeah.
soffits and everything.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah,
Because you have to say that, to me, this doesn't fit with the town, the way it looks right now with red brick. So that's one of the reasons I suggested stone and stucco.
Could we go back to, there's an architectural slide just before this? No, you just passed it, it had the photos on it, that one.
Yeah. If you look at that, it's all
No
stone and
red
stucco.
But the base of, I forget what that building is in the lower right, that's a brick base on it, right? And then
The first one,
I mean, I love stone, it's just the cost, we're trying to get durability down low
that's
without
why
the
I,
cost of that.
I suggested stucco, and I have a house from the 1850s. And one wall is stucco and
What's the maintenance?
never requires no
On
maintenance.
this stucco that you use?
I'm sorry,
What is the maintenance?
Station.
the maintenance of
The
the
stucco.
stucco?
You're talking about.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it would need more than a cleaning and I think maybe a coating or a paint. I would say 20 years. I mean, I haven't seen anything any more recent than
Okay,
that.
so you're saying the brick you'd wanna put where anybody who's gonna touch it, but with Ruth, her suggestion is to make it stucco, and I mean, maybe I'm thinking you might be thinking red brick, firehouse red, but, you know, maybe for some cost savings, like Rick, you said, maybe on the top portions, you know what I mean, the stucco, that could be huge savings. Nobody's gonna rub or touch or brush up against.
I
You know
think what I
mean?
mean,
It's- The upper portions of what she was saying could be, you know, quite a decent cost saving.
it could.
And it would look nice up against the round.
I think what I was gearing up for is doing an image where it was all the masonry that's down low is stone.
Right.
And then
right
very
down low,
quickly
that's what I'm
change,
saying,
get
the
stucco up high.
Yeah, and it'd be helpful, I mean, even if the
Some kind
rough
of-
map of what that looks like compared to where we're at now, and if
Always.
you're like, hey, this is what we can do, but it's gonna be 50% more, it's gonna be 70% more, it's, you know, whatever that is, like, I mean, it could help us make either a really quick decision or
Sure.
to.
And then it will kind of match what you've done on the side and the back, which
yeah.
is the upper portion anyway.
Mhm.
We
I'm
will-
glad we brought the renderings.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good conversation. And we're obviously trying to strike a balance between cost
Right.
and appearance. We just want to get it right. So very easy for us to look at a couple of options now. We're at the right phase to do that.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah, but, and I like the little detail of the keystones above the doors too.
I do like the brown, that's rich. Mhm.
Alright. Any other questions from the board? Anything from the public? Come on up, Bill.
Bill, that's for Ben Keats.
The picture with the. Can you bring up the picture with the layout and the footprint with the red section, especially the contaminated section,
The hot zone.
the hot zone?
Do it that way, so we
And my question to that would be, is there a physical, I think it's right above that. Let's keep going up. There it is. So you have 6 bays? Yes, Jeff, okay. So is there a physical barrier between a fire truck that's coming back contaminated from a fire and an ambulance getting ready to do a service call? Because then there's cross contamination before you want a clean ambulance to go do the service. Yeah, there is not.
The idea is the vehicles would be cleaned when they come back.
That's the question.
So they're
When and where?
decontaminated. I don't know exactly the process, but generally what I hear is gross decontamination on the outside of the building. And
Yeah, I
then go
didn't see
inside
that.
and do I'm sorry?
I didn't see the area for that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
it-
Stop manually outside.
The apron.
So
They'd be
so
doing
it's
it-
always done outside?
the gross decontamination is done outside, then they come in and I believe there's another level of decontamination due once they get inside.
That's correct. It's the inside decontamination areas are for the personnel, and the use equipment that we use. So let's say if they come back from an EMS call, the contaminant, which is in case, normally it's clean before you get back to the station. But once we get inside, we have equipment that we have to take care of, return up gear, loose equipment, hand tools, that's what that yellow area is. We go in there and we clean that stuff there before we get into the cold area, which is our living and personnel area. There's always an isolation point with that.
Right, yeah, my concern was just the crossover contamination with something unique, clean versus something coming
Both
back.
units are exposed to the same things external. So if the outside of a vehicle is dirty from road, dirty from smoke, the other ones are too. They focus on the same issues. They're at the same scenes. I think if I'm understanding what you're asking.
I'm just thinking, when one of our fire trucks comes back from a big fire and it's completely dirty. Now you're saying it's gonna be cleaned on the outside first, okay, I didn't know that.
For the most part.
But to have them both next, what's that?
We didn't time can change that.
and the pouring rain could also.
Most of the time we're doing that inside, but we have divisions built into the station itself. Collect those things that we wash off. They go out and
I just thought the best thing would be a physical barrier, and there's not as much chance of a cross contamination. I understand what you're saying.
with the systems that we're putting in the building, there's ventilation systems. that
Sure.
Capture the exhaust, because exhaust can contaminate things too.
Sure.
So each vehicle will be connected up to an exhaust system, a common exhaust system, to eliminate that hazard. That's probably the most hazard we feel
Sure,
inside the fire station.
okay, appreciate that. So the fill you need for the intersection. There's probably a lot of fill ready to fill my country club right now, they just digging new foundations, I don't know how soon we need that. Or do you remember the fill that they used for 95?
Thank you. It all has to do with when we get the NPDS permit, because I can't disturb the land to get the fill now. Right, I have to wait until I have the permit, right? So it's whatever fill is available at the time we actually need it or bid the project.
So the fill that's available at the time for the 95, when it burnt down, that's available in Chester County. I don't know if it's, you find it by the ton or the square yard.
By the ton.
So that'll be different because it's I think coat material.
Yep, and I hope I don't have to go to Chester County to pick up and fill.
Right. I didn't know what the cost was, but I know.
$1 billion.
Personal understanding. Is it $1 million?
$1 billion.
Here's your answer, Billy. I wouldn't pay that, okay. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks. Thank you.
Any other questions from the public? No, anything online?
System for the stuff of it. It stuff and the installation.
See anything in that? Nope.
My system.
Denise, last question, go for it.
There's different ones that we can use and we have.
Jamie, I have a question. If we can go back to the slide on the proposed building floor plan.
Yes.
Okay, so in front of the offices, there is a little blue box. I just wanted to know what in front of, near the public entrance, what that is.
An office.
So
Yeah, it's another office. It's just
Is that another office? It's just not marked, like right here.
Yeah, it says office on other.
yeah, that's
Okay.
the office.
And then what are these two rooms?
Right, the long room is a conference room, the one above it is just sort of a flex space, anybody that comes in, it just needs a place to work.
Okay. And then what are these two rooms gonna be?
They are supporting the training room and
Great,
that training room actually serves a lot of purposes, so that could be an EOC, that could be a training room, that could bring in other departments, that could even bring the community in for special events supporting the fire company, so there's a lot of things being designed into it. Those storage rooms are about getting furniture put away, getting EOC equipment with its own separate place.
Yeah, but one other quick question, off the day room, what would the cost be to have one more, or right there, get out to that patio? Because you gotta figure the guys are gonna grill, whatever else, and go out that way.
So, I'm sorry, you're asking what would it be to,
Off the day room.
to,
We have a patio there that's covered.
yeah. Right, so the wall that extends down on the left, that sort of defines that to the right is all covered area.
Mhm.
And then the patio could be extended a little bit beyond that, but it's actually a good sized space for some outside chairs and
how large
grills.
is that patio?
How
How large is the patio?
I don't know off the top of my head.
250 square feet.
We'll be able to put some tables
Yeah.
and chairs out there to eat
Yeah,
and with the barbecue.
yeah, that's the
Okay.
intent. And we're still able to get natural light into the day room, and the little airlock vestibule from the office area also serves a day room, so it's the same airlock.
And just these, there's these two areas, so it's just.
Right, so in the upper right is a communications area, so that's
Okay,
sort of the place where everybody does their office work. Good visibility out to the front, good visibility back to the apparatus bay. To the left of that is a mechanical room.
okay.
For
great.
just the equipment, just the services coming in. We also have mechanical equipment up on the mezzanine. Anything that can go on the mezzanine will go on the mezzanine.
Okay.
Trying to keep that as small as we can.
And in the
Reduce the
kitchen,
footprint.
I see two, so is that like refrigerator, freezer type, or two refrigerators?
Right, two large refrigerators, commercial range,
Right,
2 different sinks, a place for cooking and a place for people to come and heat things up, trying to keep those areas separate, so nobody gets in their way.
Any other questions from the board? Guys, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you for all the
Thank you.
input. Appreciate it greatly.
That- As you guys know, as design work progresses, we are recommending the board authorize the bidding to demolish the two existing structures at 2671, 2683 Huntington Pike. This will help prepare the property for site work beginning next year and allow us to receive bids directly from the contractors who can complete the work. The funding source is the bond fund, which covers all fire station related expenses. Is there any questions from the board on this topic? Any questions from the public on this? Being heard, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the bidding of the demolition of the structures at 2671, 2683 Huntington Pike.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to authorize bidding the demolition of the structures at 2671 and 2683 Huntington Pike. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's passed.
Sounds good. That takes me to my reports. Chief Smith, you up first, please.
The report was submitted, so specific questions, please let me know. But just some highlights. The month of May, we had 1,752 calls per service. The bulk of those, we have our normal 41 vehicle accidents, 317 public service calls. We had a lot of theft investigations of items from construction sites, a vehicle, and some theft from vehicles again. So again, always the reminder of please lock your vehicles. We do have our new hiring process is getting close, waiting on one more background of our top 3 and should hopefully have a conditional offer ready for next month. Public service, we've been blasting out on our social media, but the e-bikes and e-scooters and bicycles, it's that time of year. Just a reminder that anything motorized is not allowed in our parks. E-scooters are not allowed to be driven on streets or sidewalks. They're not authorized to. And most e-bikes that you're seeing commercially available are illegal to be operated. There are some that are legal. Bicycles too, if you're riding on the roadway, you'll be obeying all the traffic laws, 12 years of age and younger are required to wear a helmet. And then the biggest point is just be safe, know the rules, follow our social media. We post that stuff a lot on there, so everybody's aware. Some big arrests and enforcement from the last month. So utilizing some of our, I guess, our intelligence and advanced resources. Our officers were able to recover multiple stolen vehicles from our jurisdiction as well as several surrounding jurisdictions. So we're getting people some property back. So their dedication is noted, and it's a good thing for our officers. Bus patrol, just an update on that. We have continued our downward trend, so I'm hopeful it is continuing to work. I mean, it's still too high. When I tell you it's 146 violations, still very high. But if you recall, when we started, we were closer to 300 almost every month at the beginning. So a little over a year into it now, we're half of that. So we're hoping that works. Training updates. We have one of our sergeants will be starting the advanced supervisor training that's put on by Northwestern University. That starts in November. It runs for 10 weeks, 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off. And that'll concludes in March 2027. So it's a high level school of police staff and command. That'll bring us to 5 of our supervisors and above that will have that advanced training, which is a good thing for our police department. More completed community events. The big one we had was the Police Benevolent Association's pop-up police party. So thank you to all of their work for that. That was on May 15th. It's in our upper lot. It was a huge event. Ice cream from Polly's. There was several kids that definitely had multiple helpings of ice cream, so we couldn't control that. Lots of games, police vehicle tours, arts and crafts. They had a DJ, Judy Hobbs from Zootopia came out, so it was a good thing. It was a very good event. I was very impressed with the amount of people that were out there. I know a couple of you stopped by, so we appreciate that. But it was very well attended and a very nice event. Free shredding and e-waste event, which was the next morning. That also went well. That was our partnership with Representative Gens and the school district. It was a long line of drop-offs that started almost an hour before the event. They were snaked out towards Buck Road. But it was, again, a great event. We were able to get a lot of people's stuff. And then we also took in a lot of e-waste that day too, which was very good. And then we had our interns complete 2 broad presentations for our residents at the Gloria Day Manor and Gloria Day Towers in May. So it was a good crowd, excuse me. And these were high school interns that we have in the CAPS program. They come in, we help them complete presentations, but they do everything themselves. And then a couple officers will be there to help kind of answer some more specific questions. But again, they did a great job with that, our CAPS students. So upcoming events this Thursday and Friday is our annual Pine Road second grade tour. So it's a great event. They love going through the township, seeing the police department. We have all of our staff in the hallways and kind of show them around. And then also coming up in August 3rd, we always take part in Abington's pre-night out, which is a nice event that they do in their, I think it's their town center shopping area, which is by their Target on Work Road. So that'll be on August 3rd. Specific questions or?
Any questions from the board? Go ahead, Joe.
Solicitation in the township.
Yes.
We had, yeah, I guess this is a question for the solicitor. Is there any way that we could ban solicitation in Lower Moreland Township?
Solicitation, just going door to door, uninvited, trying to sell products, sell service, that kind of thing, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, do you need a permit?
You need a permit
Right,
for unless you are political or religious.
right. So we had an incident, several areas in Ward 2, where he was actually pretty aggressive. Not once, twice, 3 times, he came back, rang the doorbell. There's no soliciting signs on your door, okay? They're supposed to have a list. And, people were calling me, we were calling the chief investigated it, so they asked if there could be do we have anything, or does any other township have something where they don't allow solicitation in their township?
You mean just like an outright ban?
Yeah,
Not even a permit. I
Yeah.
think you could, but you can also, we could probably consider an ordinance that if somebody shows up at a door and is told, don't come back, and then they come back again, it could be something else.
Well, they did, they pulled the
Different
permits on that, we pulled the permits on that, this individual, but to avoid these conflicts with neighbors,
Yeah, we can look into that if you'd like.
yeah, please,
Sure.
thank you.
Chris, you want to say something?
So just setting expectations, because it's the same conversation we had when we created the current standards. We will absolutely look into, can we do more than is currently on the books? I think the conversations that we've had in the past have yielded that we can do that.
Yeah.
But
Not across the board, 100%.
yeah,
Always some exceptions. but-
so I think what we can do is circle back, remind everybody what the regulations are and how they work. And obviously, in this instance, the individual who had the permit was not following any of the rules that are given. And then report back to the board if there is something more that we think legally.
There we go.
And our process with them is, I review their applications, I've turned down several for concerns that I wouldn't want them going on our residences, so I do control it as best we can there. And as you said, anybody that it does create an issue, I've revoked permits in the past. So.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you pulled the permit for that whole company,
Just that person, the only one that's
just
violating.
that one?
Yes, yeah. And then I did get a hold of the manager for that one specifically and said, if there's any other violation by either of them, doesn't matter how minor it may be, I'm just gonna pull all of their permits. So, and we haven't gotten any complaints from that specific, or other groups unfortunately that go out. So that group specific,
It was the individual, because that was the same company that was out in my ward
they're out, yeah.
a year before,
Multiple times a year, that's
and we had a problem.
It's Moxie Pest Control.
Yes.
We put it out there who the company is,
So
so
I don't know.
that one specifically, that was a problem. with
Right.
Moxie Pest.
And then you had a conversation with them and said they can't act like that. So, and I thank you for going through your conversation and may act up again, you enforce. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? No. Anything from the public? Nope. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Fire Marshal Shalley.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just a couple quick things from my report. Rich Worthington and I are reviewing the Township Emergency Action Plan. We've got some new apparatus, new vehicles, and some new personnel. So we're finishing up that this month, and we'll have that to you hopefully sometime beginning of July. The first of the Future Responders Program was introduced on May 13th. There'll be 7 students. They'll start this program in September. And they'll be spending 3 days a week at the public safety campus being trained as EMTs, firefighters, and dispatchers. That's a 2-year program that's going to start off. A couple things on Carson Terrace. We've been over there a couple of times. They're redoing the sprinkler, they're redoing all their sprinkler heads in zones 3 and 4. They're also adding a special coating inside the pipe to prevent the corrosion. So hopefully that'll stop some of our problems. All the fire alarms have been updated and the fire alarm test was completed. So far, we haven't been over there too many false alarms. I did a town hall meeting with the residents who were in person and Zoom, just to discuss the past fire alarms and water line breaks during the past winter. Carson Terrace is getting an engineer in there to get estimates to add additional insulation for the plastic piping and some other ideas to keep it warm on the south side of the building. UNOs are up. And I'm working with code at 2727 Philmont in the units 200 and 300 due to work without permits, illegal witnesses, and some other fire code violations. Any questions?
Any questions for the fire marshal? Anything from the public? Thank you, Bob. Chief Showman.
Hey everyone, you have attached my report for the month of May, outlining the number of items that we participated in. Highlighting one on the first page is probably most important because it has to do with the fire station. Attended the Fire Expo in Harrisburg, which is a vendor show. I spoke with a number of vendors for a lot of the equipment we're going to be looking to purchase and procure. We talked to the CoStars folks who were giving us a bunch of different avenues to explore as well. We had some great progress. All that information has been turned over to the design team, and they have that in their possession, and I've been in contact with a number of those different vendors. We had a vacancy in our career lieutenants. We conducted a lieutenant candidate process for a new lieutenant to be appointed. We are happy to report that we have appointed one of the current staff into that vacant position, so that'll be filled, and then we will move some staff around to fill the other spot that became vacant in the troops. We've been coordinating with both deputy fire chiefs from each station, and we're equipping the new engine, which is up at the 19-1 station. It's just about complete on the equipment being installed on it. We have our in-service training, which is scheduled. I think, Chris, you're handling that, correct? 22nd. 22nd, okay.
7 o'clock.
Then we're gonna get all our folks that are drivers in both stations trained on that apparatus, so it's ready to go, and try to get that in service as quickly as we can. Because we sold the last piece of the large fleet left last week, thanks to President Locke Brown from the Burnett Fire Company. That is now out, and we've completed that final step of the large apparatus fleet reduction. We continue to participate in the every other week meetings of the building. Spend a lot of time on the building project, but we're in that spot that you just seen. We're now at the design phase completion, trying to fine tune it, and we will start looking at some of the reductions. One of the things Kevin talked about was the duplication of spaces. We're trying to incorporate into this building training props inside. So some of those mezzanines we talked about storage will also dual purposes, training and storage as well. So a lot of things happening there, and the team's been working very hard on that. We conducted a joint officer meeting between the two stations. That's what we're going to be doing from now on, so everybody's on the same page with what's going on. And there was a number of SOPs that came out of that meeting that I've developed, and are a draft form and being reviewed by the 2 deputy chiefs. As far as calls, emergency medical calls, Burnett Fire Company, into Burnett in 10, into Lower Moreland 109, other jurisdictions 119 calls, and total calls for May 238. And at the time of this report, we had 1,077 EMS calls. Fire response is 43 for Burnett. Year to date for Burnett, 217. The Huntingdon Valley Fire Company, we had 40 responses, and year to date 207. That concludes what I have to report. I put some supporting documentation into your package for you to look at. And does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, the tire issue with Tower 19.
Yep.
What is that?
There's a slight cut in the tire. We believe it to be from a curb rub.
So we're gonna cover that expense, or
It's not need to be replaced. I don't think the damage requires replacement at this point. We are monitoring it. Talked to Chris a lot about it. We looked at it. We had a tire issue before, which we felt was a defect, it was replaced,
Right,
but this one looks like it's an
This is
impact.
conflict,
Yes,
this same defect.
no, the tires that came from factory when
Right,
first
was
round
defective.
were wrong tires.
Right,
They
okay.
replaced those. Those tires were put on at Bergie, I guess up at Hatfield or wherever it is. They were all replaced on the rear of the truck. There's 8 tires put on it. We had one of them blow out. We don't know why that happened, so we had it evaluated. They're still evaluating. They haven't been able to give us an answer as to why that happened, but they covered the cost.
Cost.
This one looks like it's an impact,
Okay.
so probably somebody caught a curb. But it's still in service, and I don't think the tire is in a position it needs to be replaced, in my opinion. However, we are monitoring that closely.
And then the other night, there was a call in Meadowbrook from Abington, and the dispatcher called for engine 19. But they called the Huntingdon Valley Fire Company for engine 19. It wasn't available to go out. It was up in Manhattan. Was that a dispatching error that occurred there?
I believe it probably is because engine 19 doesn't exist right now.
Right.
It's out of service because it's still in a truck. A new truck is not in service yet.
So,
And depending on the type of call, if it was for a what's called a rapid intervention team
Yeah.
call, it would be the 19-1 truck. That's what's scheduled on the box cards.
that's correct. So it wasn't available then, correct?
I don't know. I didn't, wasn't on call. Was it nighttime? I think
Yeah, it was like almost 3 o'clock Sunday morning.
I assume they got out for it. I haven't heard anything.
Okay.
I'm talking this past weekend?
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to talk to Chief. I've been on vacation. I'm on vacation this week. You didn't know that.
I asked.
I don't know when you're on vacation. Hope you had a good time. All right, that's all.
I had it.
Thank you.
There we go.
I have a question. You've been giving us this dashboard with some numbers on it. You haven't talked to us about it yet, or what it means, but I've noticed last month and now this month as well, the year-over-year trend is showing
Yes.
that we're declining in our response times. Can you please comment on what that means, how we're supposed to interpret that number?
That's a good question, actually. I looked at it too, and I'm looking at why are we off on this? Are calls further away? Are we more out of town calls, or are we going further out? And I've juggled times a little bit on responses, but I can't answer that question for you.
So
We have improvements in some areas and some degress in other areas.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and these were all saying 2025 numbers. So-
Well, 2025 is a comparison.
Would be 5.6.
Right.
This is how much slower we are compared to where we were last year.
Yeah, because that's saying 2025, right there, 6 of 1. Didn't make sense to me. All right.
If you read, it's hard to read that. We're trying to figure out how to lay that out properly, but Charles is working diligently on trying to get this refined to the best.
What we our average response this is what we did last year in May.
So gotcha, that's the 2026 numbers up top.
Yes.
Oh, just with all
This is just
2025.
May and it's.
But what you'll see is that there is reductions in some response times, some overall net response times. But more importantly, the personnel is actually better than it was, if you look at it.
So I think also what I'm not seeing here is, are we hitting the standard that we've set?
For the times.
And to what degree are we hitting it?
We are well within the times. We are very close to the manpower almost every time. Again, it all depends on if we're out on other calls. As you can hear on when I reported on the mutual aid calls for ambulance, there's been a lot of them. They've had some issues over at Second Alarmers with personnel. So we've been called to cover more calls, but we can't control that. That's controlled by the 911 center. So I'm under the understanding, I heard today that they've hired some folks, so that's going to be reduced. But that pulls us away, and you've mentioned this before, it does take some of our response away, but we're still making every response. There's nothing we're scratching on. I don't, like I said, it's something I don't know what happened. Or
So
it's true or not.
if you have 2 EMS calls go out from Bernathen, okay, in the borough, okay, and then we have a fire call come in.
That's correct.
Do we have enough manpower to take that truck?
We should have 3 at least at minimum.
At
for the
least
first truck.
3.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have 1 EMS out.
And again, this is at nighttime.
Even during the daytime?
During the daytime, we could have as many as 8, 9 people.
8 to 9 people, right? So, but if you don't have the 8 to 9 people, and you just have the minimum amount allowed, and you get a fire call, does the EMS go out with 2 and the fire truck go out with 2? So that means
Well,
it's
that
more
might be, yeah.
personnel, yeah, you take the EMS out to the fire call
Right.
and the fire truck, 2 in the fire truck, 2 in the EMS,
Right.
that's 4 men.
That's correct.
Okay. You don't have 4 men on the truck, You
We
have
have
two
full
EMS,
personnel on the
but
team.
that's how you're.
Yeah, they are with the firefights.
Right, no, I understand, no, I understand that.
Jump in for 1 second just for clarification. Typically, if that was gonna occur, there'd be 3 on the engine, one in the ambulance.
But
It's not 2.
Yeah.
If we stay-
It's the driver just chasing the ambulance. The reason we do that,
Right,
we get available from the fire
Yeah,
department, and the ambulance
that's-
officers that we cover.
okay, all right, I got it.
And that's within the town.
I'm sorry, I should clarify
Round
that.
or
Right.
depending on where you're going.
Yeah.
Fred, you got a question back there?
Just to clarify, we have a minimum of 5 on
One shift.
All one shift.
24 hours a day. During
Five
the day,
minimum?
minimum 5. And we do have a policy in place that says, if we have less than 5 or 5 or less, not both ambulances are allowed to go on. So we log our ambulances based on
Staffing.
our fire staffing.
Any other questions for the chief from the board? Anything from the public? Thank you, chief. That takes me to my liaison position. Chief Smith already covered interviews in process for the new hiring, civil service meeting on that. And then my second liaison position is the library. The library will wrap up its reading is Revolutionary Programming with the lecture of Herb Kaufman called Mysteries of the Revolutionary War. The event will be held in the Valley Center Room on Thursday, June 18th at 7 p.m. The story, enjoy games, crafts, a DJ, raffles, and light refreshments. Learn more about it and register for this year's reading program. Staff will be available to help you sign up for events, recommended books, and answer any questions. You will also be able to pick up a packet of summer learning materials. More details are available on the website at hvlibrary.org. That's all I have. Back to you, Commissioner Kurtz.
Thank you, Commissioner CANALE. Next.
So fire.
Yeah, okay. Want to.
They want to. I mean.
Good. I'm sorry to interrupt.
I'm not gonna put you on the. They don't.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Next, the chair recognizes Commissioner Mueller, Chair of the Community Development Committee. If the firefighters, Commissioner Bowden is stating would like to leave, you can do so, but if you would like to stay for our meeting, you
Be our guest.
be our guest. Commissioner Mueller, you want to, and we want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'll just give you like 30 seconds, so let people shuffle out.
Thank you for coming, Joan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kurtz. The first item on my agenda is an update on 4 projects involving intersection and pedestrian improvement. So I believe I saw Chad Dixon there, or maybe somebody from Bowman.
Don't be disappointed, it is not Chad Dixon, but it is Jonathan Jessen.
And you have good eyes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jonathan Jones, not Chad Dixon, and I'm with Bowman Consulting Group. Bowman is the township traffic engineer here in Lower Moreland. Tonight, I'm just going to be providing an update on some of the roadway and pedestrian improvement projects that are being pursued through the township. So those 4 particular projects are going to be the Huntingdon Pike and Byberry Road intersection improvement project, the Beth Air streetscape improvement project, the Huntingdon Pike and Red Line Road intersection improvement project, and the Welch Road and Wood Road pedestrian crossing improvement project. We're going to skip over the Huntingdon Pike and Buck Road intersection improvement project, as that was just briefly discussed. So what I'm hoping everybody.
Can you speak a little? Louder?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. What we're hoping everybody understands after this presentation tonight is has a better understanding of the scope of the projects, as well as how they're going to benefit the community and how some of this planning that we're going to talk about tonight is going to ultimately benefit these projects as they move along the process. So improvement project, As you can see, this project is just in the planning phase, so this is kind of the earliest stage that we would see a project in. And to date, our office has done a preliminary traffic analysis. We've developed this preliminary conceptual design exhibit that you see up here on the screen, and we've also developed a preliminary construction cost estimate. Based on that traffic analysis that our office did, it was determined that left turn lanes were warranted on all 4 legs of the intersection here at Huntingdon Pike and Byberry Road. So today, I believe there's just a through lane in both directions along pretty much all of those legs. So what the introduction of that left turn lane is going to do, it's going to improve capacity, it's going to improve operations at the intersection. If you're driving through that intersection today, you'll probably notice that if there's a car trying to make a left turn onto Byberry Road, for instance, it's queuing back and therefore creating an issue, and you kind of either got to wait for that car to make that left turn movement, or you're going to kind of snake around them, which is typically not a safe movement. So with that being said, in addition to those improvements at the intersection, this project would introduce a full traffic signal upgrade, pedestrian improvements at the intersection, as well as drainage improvements and stormwater management improvements at the intersection. Additionally, one of the items that was identified was the conflicts that are currently being created at the Spur Road and at the Huntingdon Pike intersection. What the Spur Road does today is it provides some relief for the main intersection, but with the addition of these left turn lanes, all of that relief isn't going to be necessary. So due to some of those conflicts that are currently observed at that Huntingdon Pike Spur Road intersection, this proposed plan proposes to convert that to a one-way intersection so that you would only be able to pull off of the Spur Road onto Huntingdon Pike. You would no longer be able to pull onto the Spur Road from Huntingdon Pike. So you'd have to now use the new left turn lanes at the intersection in order to get around the intersection. And this is still, like I said, this is in the planning stages. So this still needs to be discussed with emergency services and local residents and commercial property owners. The preliminary cost estimate for this project was estimated to be $4.3 million. We understand that's a really large number. And as you see, as we kind of progress through some of these slides, you'll see how the township has been successful in obtaining a lot of grants to fund a lot of these projects, specifically the engineering phase and then ultimately the construction phase. So we're aware that that's a very large number, and we're aware that that would almost entirely need to be coming from grant funding and not the township's capital budget. So really the next steps are moving into preliminary design and seeking funding to move into those next steps. So I think the two major things that, if you don't mind staying on that slide, that we wanted to call out. This is one of our 2 intersections where when you approach it, it seems like there's something illogical where there's a dedicated right turn lane. And this, John had already mentioned this. So if you're stuck behind a car wanting to turn left, you are in the through lane. So you have to either swing out or wait, which is, if you're swinging out, is a dangerous decision to make, but we know many people do it. What is the reason why that condition exists, and what does it require to fix it? Generally alignment issues, right?
It's alignment issues, and it's also just the pavement width that's required to satisfy PennDOT's requirements. So unfortunately, you could just curve the edge of the road, but PennDOT has certain requirements, and they're for a reason, but they have certain requirements that require certain shoulder widths, certain lane widths that kind of permit some of that illegal activity.
Sure. So we generally just throughout the township where we have tried to lead improvement projects that are at state road intersections. There's just legacy issues that exist from when the roads were originally built that make them more challenging to kind of make some of these common sense improvements. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out here is that the realignment of them, that's just one way for Spur Road. One thing that does do that really could be an inconvenience for, there's a cul-de-sac off of Spur that's Colonial Circle. So right now you can turn, if you're traveling north on the Pike, you can turn left onto Spur and then left onto Colonial Circle. Residents on that street in this configuration would now need to go to the intersection at Byberry, turn left, and then come back into Spur that way. So that is a group that would have just a fundamentally different experience for how they would access their homes. But as we were reviewing what Bowman put together for this initial concept, if the broader goal is to get people to utilize an improved intersection and decrease the availability of Spur, this is the way that you can accomplish that. So it's kind of greater good for the flow of traffic through the corridor, but I think there very much would need to be a kind of public information component for those residents on Colonial Circle, because this would change the way they get to their homes.
Yeah, that's a good summary, Chris. And I'll just note that there is proposed to be a left turn lane on Byberry Road that would turn onto the spur road, which would hopefully make that movement a little bit easier for those residents if this was to move forward.
So they no longer be able to make a turn on the spur to go into the development
From Huntingdon.
from Huntingdon Road.
They would have to turn into spur from Byberry.
That would mean all traffic too, would not be able to make that turn. They would have to
Correct.
go up to that intersection to get to Byberry.
Correct. And you'll recall that Spur had one configuration for a long time, and there were several fatal accidents that happened. PennDOT came out and did a study and put together the configuration that is there today. That is pretty awkward. You kind of have to, if you're making that left, you have to almost like pass it a little bit, and then the way that it like scoops back through. So we knew that that was not an ideal solution, but it was one that was trying to address the issues that were happening there. And we wanted to be mindful of that and kind of come up with like a more permanent resolution to that as part of the overall intersection improvement.
Jonathan, can you, on each one of these projects, can you also just give us two other pieces of information? First being, if we anticipate, and I know the preliminary engineering phase would happen next on at least the initial sketches that you have, do you anticipate any impacts to property with, the additional space or configurations that would be proposed? And then the second question is just the timing standpoint, real understanding that this is very early in the process, what kind of timing you would be thinking of for each one of these projects. So with each one, if you could just kind of
particular project at the intersection, in order to accommodate those new wider roads, in order to install those left turn lanes, there is going to be some direct impacts to those properties in the area. So there will be right-of-way acquisition that's necessary. However, there's no direct impacts in terms of, I think it's mostly just buffer space along those property frontages. So yes, there is right-of-way acquisition required for this particular project. And in terms of timeline, like I said, we're at the earliest stage of the process for this particular project. I would estimate we're at least 5 to 10 years before going to construction and seeing a physical improvement out there. So yes, a long time and a lot of planning, but that's why we're here, hopefully to kind of get in front of things and seek grant funding and stuff like that to fund these particular projects.
If we're going to rely on grant funding for both the full design work and then construction, all of that adds for every grant application another year or 2 years to when you can get to construction.
So the next project we're going to talk about is the Beth Ayres Streetscape Improvement Project. The township had a master plan developed for this project about 10 years ago. And some of the improvements identified in that master plan have been installed, particularly down past the Welch Road intersection along Huntingdon Pike and up around the Buck Road and Huntingdon Pike intersection. There's been some sidewalk network that's been constructed. But this project in particular, we've kind of been talking a lot about funding and grants and stuff like that. So we're in preliminary engineering right now, and Bowman and the township have worked to obtain funding, a DCED LSA grant in order to fund the entirety of the preliminary engineering for this project. So currently all of this project is being funded through that grant. So what is this project? I mentioned the master plan and some of the improvements that have been built up to date, but really the majority of this project falls between Welch Road and Red Line Road on Huntingdon Pike. And what this project proposes to do is install new sidewalk along both sides of the roadway in order to create kind of a more pedestrian friendly network. And how we're going to do that is installing a grass buffer on both sides between the sidewalk and the roadway. You'll probably notice out there today that for most of the Pike, the sidewalk is directly adjacent to the road, which doesn't always feel safe as you're traversing that. We're hoping these more pedestrian friendly accommodations will promote, economic development within the historic district and also just create pedestrian connections to the local neighborhood and facilities around the area. So we're in like I said, the preliminary engineering stages for this project. In addition to that sidewalk that's going to be installed out here, this section of the Pike also doesn't have any stormwater management facilities, or has very few, I'll say, stormwater management facilities. So This project proposes to install a lot of drainage along the Pike and kind of work as hand in hand as a pedestrian accommodations project, but also kind of an infrastructure upgrade. So next slide, please. This graphic here kind of shows a little bit more of the actual cross section that you're going to see out there. So we'll have a slightly narrower lane in the northbound direction. Today it's about 19 feet. That'll get narrowed down to 15 feet. And the reason being, we're going to try to, the question about is right of way required. So in order to work within this existing cartway, we're going to narrow the roadway a little bit, which should hopefully promote some traffic calming features along the corridor as well. But what it's going to do is it's not going to require right of way to be acquired from all of the properties along the Pike here. So that the goal of pushing the roadway in a little bit, but still creating more pedestrian accommodations out there. In terms of cost, it was determined that I guess the south side of the image here was probably the more high priority section. This is where a lot of the businesses are located and where a lot of the sidewalks in kind of poor condition, I'll say. So this project is aimed to be a phased improvement project. The south side of the project would be 2.5 million estimated cost, and the north side would be approximately $2.4 million cost. And once again, I understand it's sensitive. It's a very large number, and obviously this would be also largely need to be funded through grant funding. And like I said, as you've kind of seen, the township has already acquired some preliminary funds to fund this project, and between this project and the next project, they've acquired more than $700,000 to fund these projects in engineering. So that tells me that the grant agencies are looking at these as high priority projects, and that will ultimately hopefully work towards construction funding and be favorable in that sense as well. So yeah, really the next steps here are just working with local businesses to evaluate the improvements and identifying potential grant pursuits. Like I said, this project, we're in the preliminary engineering stages. So I would say we're probably 3 to 5 years from potentially seeing any construction out there.
How challenging is it that, so Huntingdon Pike, obviously a PennDOT road, the lack of stormwater infrastructure there, and us doing this project, or even considering it, is what exposes, like, we would be required to do that. There's not a way to just do this as a, like, aesthetic streetscape project, right?
Correct. Yeah, unfortunately, once you kind of take on a project like this on a state route, PennDOT's going to want to see that it's brought up to current standards as much as possible. And in order to install all of the drainage facilities that are really needed out there along the Pike, there's going to be some gas mains, there's going to be water mains, there's going to be utilities that need to be relocated as part of the process. And that's kind of really what's driving up some of these costs. We say like, we look at this, we say $2.5 million for just a sidewalk improvement project. But that's why I kind of tried to key in on, it's really a combined pedestrian improvement project as well as a kind of infrastructure upgrade along the Pike here.
And because obviously if an investment in the Huntingdon Pike, that corridor is like the downtown shopping district, that being walkable to a greater extent and people feeling safer as they do that, I think it just has so many intangible benefits to it. That project improvement cost probably far exceeds the economic benefit we would ever see. I don't think that's a reason to not pursue it, but I think it is. It adds a realistic challenge to what the funding considerations for it. This one needs to be so methodical as it works through greater design level to the point of seeking construction funds, because it's all going to have to come from state funding sources.
Of the businesses, just a question, I guess, for any of the board members, maybe Ruth or for Chris. What's the feedback from the businesses along Huntingdon Pike there in terms of, excitement, interest, don't want it? What do you have any kind of read on, what the businesses along that corridor are interested in, and if they see this as being positive?
They are hopeful but cautious. They feel that they had some past exposure to plans that they did not go along with. These are very mild plans, and I think that they will be quite pleased with them. So was, removing their entire front lawn. That is not gonna happen with this project. And they are not gonna be required to maintain any of this. This is all going to be relative streetscape, except for the shoveling of snow.
Right, the property owners will have the obligation to sidewalks.
Yeah, but I mean, they won't be installing them.
Correct.
They will get the sidewalks, brand new sidewalks for free,
Right,
which is a big deal.
absolutely, because one thing that has always been a possibility is there's probably several just code challenges for those existing sidewalks. We probably could pursue getting much of just a kind of block for block replacement, pursuing that through code enforcement, but this as a broader, more coordinated project certainly seems like a much more supportive project concept for downtown Florida.
We don't want
Has
to
there
make
been-
anybody.
Yeah, thanks, Ruth. Has there been any kind of economic development studies that, if this was done, that would show that, maybe that there's an improvement to the economic development of that area from the business standpoint? And is that an opportunity to maybe leverage some other things to help push this along if there's strong interest from the business community?
Not at this point. I think one of the challenges for that is, I think we could certainly have our planner maybe review some possibilities. But anything that wouldn't be publicly funded is going to be solely at the discretion of the private property owner. And I think on a property by property basis, you would have different answers for what they might invest in their properties as a result of this public property.
All right, this next project is at Huntingdon Pike and Red Line Road intersection. So this basically directly interfaces with the Beth Air Streetscape Improvement Project that we just talked about. It kind of picks up where that one left off. So this project recently received a DCED MTF grant to fund the entirety of final design. So that's going to take us through the PennDOT permitting process all the way to construction, where we'll need to start looking at additional funding for this particular improvement project. In terms of timeline, final design is estimated to take 1 to 2 years, and that's dependent on the permitting process as well as the right-of-way acquisition that's necessary for this project. This project will have right-of-way acquisition that's required in order to install some of these improvements. Some of those particular improvements being on installed along the bank there along Red Line Road. There'll be radii improvements. We'll also connect some of the missing sidewalk network that's out there. And additionally, we're going to install some stormwater management improvements. So it's very tight out there. You can see that the curb's being constantly run over, and it's probably a maintenance issue. So this project is hopefully going to work to fix some of those issues, as well as, like I said, provide some of the pedestrian accommodations and connections that don't exist out there today. So next slide, please. So this total construction cost is estimated at 2.2 million. And really just the next stage of this project is, like I said, obtaining the PennDOT permits and identifying construction funding and grant opportunities.
EJ, are you ready?
And then this last project is the Welsh Road and Boyd Road improvement project. So we've been talking a lot about planning and working through engineering. This project has all of the necessary approvals obtained and is hopefully going to be constructed before the start of the school year, I believe. So what this project does is introduce an ADA accessible crossing at the Welsh Road and Boyd Road intersection. This was stemmed from some resident feedback that was received in the area. The township is going to work with the Public Works Department in order to utilize some of the existing equipment out there, specifically the existing flasher that's out there. They're going to utilize the existing one and relocate that to hopefully reduce some of the construction costs associated with this project. But it's really it for this project.
Just on the timing of that, like I know that we've got things essentially administratively ready. But had Commissioner McDade had mentioned this to me. Steve, do we have timing on that, I guess, potential paving that would impact when we would do this?
No, because I'm not gonna pay that till next year, so like there's nothing. I don't think there's any way, paving's not gonna affect it.
That's the lower part of Walsh Road.
Yeah.
The resurfacing and paving down there.
This is the upper.
This is the upper part. This is Wood Road, like where they want to do the crosswalk. They just want to move the school zone sign down.
Correct.
To actually slow the traffic, coming up off of that curve right there. And then next year, me and Steve discussed with the 2027 repave of the lower part of it. We'll do additional traffic down there, so we have some type of pattern to come up where that traffic is reduced to a 25 mph. And then when this actual school zone is flashing, they reduce down to 15, and it's just going to make it a longer stretch of Walsh Road, which is a good design.
Yeah, this one was unique because in order to create the, I guess, appropriate basis for PennDOT for the crossing, the way to accomplish that was to modify the school zone. And that's where moving that equipment comes in. Once you have a longer school zone, it allows you to cross in its location. It's more complicated than that, but that's the simple explanation.
There is a pole there. There is a pole for the speed limit sign, right? That we're going to.
Yeah, there's a pole there now.
Right, we're just moving it
I
down.
believe we have a black pole.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board regarding these projects?
No.
Any questions from the public? Leah, EJ, I'll ask if there's any questions online.
No, I don't see any.
All right, thank you, Jonathan.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next item on my agenda is to review a sketch plan for 2600 Philmont Avenue. And this time I would like to invite the applicant's representatives or the applicant to the podium to review the sketch plan. As in, previous reviews, we'll follow the same format. We'll allow the applicant and their representatives to discuss what the plan is. We'll have questions from the board and then from the public. As a reminder, this is not a vote. This is simply a means of collecting feedback both from the board and from the public. So with that, I will allow those that are there in the room to speak on the project.
Good evening. Thank you for having us again. I'm Michael Mattioni, the attorney. Manny Mathai is the principal of the owner of the property is here.
If you don't mind speaking up.
I'm sorry, I'm having a bad allergy time. Sorry, Chris. Manny Mathai. Excuse me.
Get you a water.
I'm late. Manny Mathai, who is the principal, is here. And we have our engineer, John Anderson, Emily Goldstein, our economic person. We have our traffic engineer, Ben Guthrie, and our architect, Carolyn Pena here again. We met back in November and there were some comments and recommendations. So we went back, we talked with your solicitor, we talked with Tim Woodrow as well. They made some very good suggestions. So we came back with a redesign project. As you can see, we took the building, which had been up on the northeast corner, proposed to be up on the northeast corner, and moved it directly adjacent to the existing office building there. Our proposal is we're asking for relief. We're asking for the township to consider a text amendment that would allow a senior living facility to be at this site. And the site itself is a large site. It's underutilized. It's a very large parking area with an office building on it. And this would allow for more utilization of the site. But it would require some kind of change, text amendment change, some legislative action to happen. Now, as part of what we did since we were last here, we had a larger facility proposed. It was 195 beds. We now are down to 164 beds. So this means that some of the things that were concerned have been addressed. we had proposed parking up on Philmont Avenue. We no longer propose parking up on Philmont Avenue. The northeast corner, which we were going to develop, will remain undeveloped. So by having the building smaller, by relocating it, by having parking under part of the building, we've been able to really condense the areas on the site that would be developed. We're largely using what's already there. We have some small parking area on Red Lion Road that we are adding to meet the zoning code requirements for parking. But really, it's a better oriented project. We think it's a better project. It's smaller in terms of scope and scale. It doesn't take up a lot of the open area, the non-developed open area. We're using what is already impervious coverage area. We are adding, if this were to go ahead, we would add stormwater management where none exists. And we would bring in 164 new beds. The principal, Manny Mathai, he just is opening now another project called Angel Star in Bristol Borough. So he's successfully done that. He's been in the home healthcare business for 25 years. He's very experienced at this kind of projects. What we're looking at here is a project that is largely assisted living. If you look down at Crescent Fields, that's largely independent living. It's still senior housing, but it's a different focus. We're talking about 164 beds, 100 of them being assisted living, 32 being memory care, 12 being personal care, and 20 being independent living. This facility would have things such as a fitness center, a theater, an event room and lounge space, a central dining facility, library and common space. It would also have the opportunity for the office building to have other professionals that would, work within this facility, such as physical therapists, occupational therapists, podiatrists, physicians, etc. If you look at the BOI zoning district where this is, it largely allows for office buildings and related office building types. Our economic expert can talk about why office buildings just aren't really viable right now to be built new. So in order to make something viable out of this, we looked around. It's an institutional district. This is an institutional type of use. It blends in, it fits the purpose of the zoning ordinance of the BOI zoning district because it's an institutional use that would benefit from the road networks that are there, from the stores and other things that are around them. Again, it's similar to Crescent Fields, but Crescent Fields really has a much greater focus on independent living. So again, we reviewed traffic. We have our traffic engineer here. We do meet all of the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. We studied the traffic in various to let us know if they want us to move ahead. Are they willing to make consider making a text amendment that will allow this kind of use as a permitted use or a conditional use or a special exception, amend the zoning code to allow this to happen in this district. And there are 4 BOI zoning districts in the whole township. So if you change it, it would be a change for all of them, but there aren't that many of them in the township. So it's not that great a change. What I would really like to do now is have Emily Goldstein, our economic expert, discuss some of the economic impacts of the project if it were to move ahead and what fiscal impact it would have on the township. So,
everyone. So my firm, eConsult Solutions, is Philadelphia based, and we've formed a market analysis and fiscal impact study and found very conservatively estimating an impact of over 500,000 annually in terms of fiscal impact. And that would be for the county, township, and school district. Majority of that impact would be towards the school district. That'd be around $300,000 per year annually. Additionally, we've also accounted for the costs that the proposed development would have to the township, and we found that that would still have a net positive impact around 18,000 per year. This is also not accounting for the one-time value to the township as it relates to development fees and impact fees, which would be to the tune of around $700,000. And again, these are certainly as it relates to the annual tax impacts. These are very conservative as the property is not built. We do not have a current assessment, so we have been as conservative as possible with those impacts.
And just the projected assessment you used.
We have it assessed at the exact number. We have it at $7,500,000 for the assessed value. And this was based on, we looked at a number of the surrounding senior living facilities and looked at their assessed values, finding the most suitable.
I do want to say this with respect to Crescent Fields, it sold about a year and a half ago for $43.3 million. There is clearly, they were bought by Legend Senior Living, a nationwide operator of senior living facilities. I don't think they would be paying that kind of money if they did not think that it was the demand for this new happening in this area. And you can speak a little bit about the demand for this type of housing.
So you're projecting $24.5 million cost. What do you think your fair market value is on this bill?
Roughly.
Have you considered in your impact study the impact on our emergency services?
We have, yeah. So as part of our analysis, we worked through the entire budget, all line items as it relates to both revenue and expense.
Can you speak up?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So as part of our analysis, we worked through the township's entire budget. So looking both at revenue, of course, and also expense. And in terms of our analysis for the potential use of emergency services, given the property will have 24-hour medical care, we believe that will be helping to triage and also offset the potential use of emergency services, that only true emergencies would reach the point of requiring 911, and that the facility would be able to address any smaller scale emergency.
What was your projected volume on that then?
Oh, repeat that.
What was your projected volume on that?
I don't have that exact number. I'd have to speak with the analysts that performed it. So I'd have to get back to you.
No problem.
And how does that compare to you making comparisons to the other facility that's just down the road? How would that?
I don't have their numbers.
You don't have their numbers, but you've compared like assisted living versus single living. What do you know about the differences in terms of emergency service pressure in terms of these two different types of facilities?
I don't know what their independent living has, so I can't make a comparison between.
I guess I'm not asking what they have. I'm asking what that type of facility has as a comparison to what this type of facility might have in terms of the pressure on emergency services.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
This one's going to have a higher.
It's going to have a higher assisted living.
We will have it.
All right, so we can reasonably assume that the pressure on emergency service would be higher than what we currently experience with Crescent Fields because of the nature of the
Yes.
Can you elaborate on the medical staff that you will have? 24 hours? Do you have doctors? Do you have nurses on staff?
They will have doctors and nurses and other people either on call or on staff. We don't know what the makeup will be until we know what it is we're able to build. And Manny can probably talk to that a little bit from his experience in Bristol. But until you know.
If you have people on staff, I mean, are you gonna have, people that are gonna deal with, I mean, can you go over, like, when you said 164 beds, you said it so quick. With the ratio for me, can you just go over that for me?
One quick question. Bob, how many beds does Manor Healthcare have right now?
100, so I could.
Like 120, 130, somewhere right there.
I just texted Brianna, she hasn't gotten back.
Yeah, I think it's like 120, 130. So that's assisted living right there and full nursing care. Similar numbers to what that facility is what we would expect here. Maybe slightly higher because you're about 10%, 15% increase over what we're seeing out of Medicare.
And do they, and for the facility, that's the Genesis facility on the corner of Huntingdon Pike and Byberry, that's a similar facility, so we know
That's what
our
I'm talking about
yeah,
right now, yeah.
yeah, we know what our experience is there, but I guess to you know, to the folks that are there in the room that are presenting this, you know, you have other facilities that are under Manny, you know, what kind of response are you seeing from those, and do they have doctors and nurses on staff at those facilities as well?
Manny, in terms of staffing,
Good evening.
Good evening.
We just built a.
Maddie, come on up so we can
Yeah,
hear you a
we
little
can
bit
hear you.
better.
Hello. We just built the new facility at Bristol Borough.
Okay.
This is 168 bed. And we have dialysis center, rehab, pharmacy, adult daycare, clinic, and home health care. These are there right now. We are waiting for the licenses we are not open yet. We just finished, we just had the use and occupancy last week. And but I do know, because I do know exactly what kind of medical help they need. We have in the assisted living, we have because of the care, according to the care, they do have CNAs, 1-to-1 care, 1-to-6 care, and 12 people to 1 care. And we help.
Are you talking about RN then? Or?
RN, yeah.
Yeah,
We
RN.
have every floor we have an RN. And they do the medications, and LPNs also, and the medical assistants also be there.
Okay.
and that's 24/7.
24/7, yes.
Do we reduce staff, even though we're 24/7, do we ever reduce staff at night times? We find that to be a very common practice in this business.
Well, sometimes they do, sometimes when they sleep, you know, they must have 1 or 2 RNs at all the time. They must have 1 supervisor all the time. But the clinical staff is always remained safe.
And is that regulated by the state manager? Is that regulated by the state?
100%, 100% regulated by state. And we have every year we have to renew our license, state inspections and everything.
Reduce staff there?
You shouldn't be reduced staff. We should have, I mean, like I say, they should have enough staff as scheduled. If there is any only emergency time, when somebody have, you never know, whatever emergency, they must call.
Sure.
The emergency. For
So since we have a facility that is similar in nature, it looks like approximately the same size, slightly smaller. Do we have a sense right now of what percentage of calls there?
There's a difference between assisted living and non-assisted living.
Sure.
Non-assisted living, the staff that we usually there are minimal, and somebody falls or gets injured, that's an automatic call.
Right, and we've talked about that perspective, Chris.
These folks, if they have staff on for assisted living, can triage the calls and hopefully filter them out a little bit. However, there's going to be an increase in call line. There's definitely going to be.
Well, sure.
So what comes with that is also revenue for us, call. So if there's a balance, we gotta find it.
At the call volume for the last couple months, you're about 6 to 9 calls a month out of Medicare, which is a higher acuity level, which I would expect more EMS calls out of, because it's full nursing rehab, not assisted like this place. So based on those numbers, and then going down and looking at like Crescent Field, your average is about 15 calls per month there, much larger facility with the different levels. So with that being said, it should be a happy medium somewhere in that area between the two. So I can probably drop 8 to 10 calls.
And remember, during the day, you have on just around because people are awake during the day. So you're gonna have more people during the day than you would at night anyway. Just the way it is, but you do have 20% staff.
Yeah, everybody's still not sure.
Oh, no, I'm
have some things that we're testing out.
I'm not saying they don't have it. I was just explaining why we have less personnel.
I get it.
Guys, there's too many conversations.
And Manny, at night, the state requires you to have the certain
Yeah.
amount of nurses and staff, on each floor. To
Absolutely,
accommodate the
each
residents.
floor they have to have each clients have a number of staff they need. So say some of the area, they need like every 6 clients need one staff,
Okay, 6 to
And-
1.
6 to 1. Some of them only need a 12 to 1, depends on their how sick they are.
Right,
So when we hire them, we will, if it is, we cannot take in our facility, we don't take it. Because they need more care, they need to go to hospital or they need to go to nursing home.
We're 6 to 1 and 12 to 1. We're not talking RNs, you're talking
CNAs,
CNAs.
yeah,
Not very highly medically trained.
no, we don't take them. This is some kind of a very happily living area, but they might need help for medication. So we give them, helping them to medication or shower or, those things.
Manny, can you clarify again from the last time till now, just clarify, I remember you were talking to us about each floor. The senior living facility, are you gonna have, just explain it to us. What, I don't remember, I think I remember you said you're gonna have, just explain it to us. What you're gonna have at the facility.
In the facility?
Yeah.
Okay. We will have, in this particular area, we'll have 160 for assisted living
Okay,
patients. Out of that, is 32 of them is a memory care.
okay,
So they definitely need 1 to 6 or less staff. And we have out of that 20 independent living, though they don't need no staff. If they are not, they're renting the place, they come and go. They don't need no medical attention. If they need any medical attention, that's the time they do call the emergency. And we have, rest of them are assisted living, and we do have LPN, CNAs and RNs.
okay.
Okay, we have a couple, I don't know if there's any other questions now from the board, but we have a couple memos from the staff. Tim Woodward, would you like to kind of give a summary on your latest memo?
Yeah, sure, Dennis. When I wrote my memo, I was thinking back to some of the conversations we had at the planning commission. And I think some of the concerns of the planning commission were the building massing, how much of the open space of the site was taken over by the original proposal. So this response to those comments, I think, is productive. I think the building is much better suited as it sits in the building, in our building site. It's not really an engineer plan at this point. Mr. Anderson certainly did acknowledge the obligation to provide the right number of parking spaces. The stormwater management components are there. The floodplain encumbrance on the property is shown. So I think all of the components of a sketch plan have been illustrated. I think it really does come down to the sense of building use and whether we foresee this use and its potential impacts as something we'd like to embrace at this site or not. So I think it's, again, back to a discretionary decision by the board after what we heard and the responses that the applicant has given us, whether it's worth pursuing or not.
And just to reiterate that we did try to take into account all the comments from before and move the building, working with you, move the building so that it would basically be on what is already impervious coverage. the northeast corner, which is a large wooded area that remains wooded and untouched. Out in front on Philmont Avenue, nothing's changing there. We're not adding park. Relocated it and just trying to take advantage of what's already there, but allow for some development because it is a large site to only have the 69,000 square foot building on it.
What percentage of the existing building now is occupied?
It's just, right now it's 72%.
Yeah.
And if this project would go through, are you considering remodeling that building as well, or is that something that you have any plans for that at this point in time if the project goes through?
Well, we've been renovating a lot of offices already because we're trying to put more medical units there. And so if after if we have this, the gentlemen, you and ladies, if you say okay, we will make sure we make it other building also renovate and appealing to the community.
You understand that our issue is balancing the types of businesses we take here in Lower Moreland, and we have been asked of late to take a fair amount of senior living facilities. Our emergency services are running at a pretty high capacity right now. And we're worried. We're worried about the impact on our existing infrastructure. At least the emergency services infrastructure in another senior living facility. Just laying it out there and being honest with you.
Well, I think that those are legitimate concerns. I do think show that fiscally, between the taxes and other fees paid and the fee every time you call you're supposed to pay, that there would be a net positive monetary impact on the township and certainly on the school district.
Can you share those numbers again?
I'm sorry, we don't bill every time they come out, only if they're transported.
Right.
And that's quite a difference, and it can be a major factor in the profitability or expense.
Right, but you're weighing that against the increased real estate tax, the increased earned income tax, the increased other fees that you will get by having this facility here. And I know the school district's separate in a lot of respects, but they will get a significant fiscal impact from this without any additional students as well. So
yeah,
there are some definitely legitimate benefits fiscally. There's always a detriment to, no matter what you do, there's some detriment.
right.
Yeah, but you're talking about taking property that's largely just sitting there fallow and not generating any tax revenue for the township. It's not creating any jobs. I mean, you're talking about some skilled jobs here. There will be some additional medical personnel that would work here. And you did ask about, and I think Emily was talking about that a little bit. I didn't want to skip your question.
So it's 541,000 conservatively estimated annually in terms of that total impact.
Is that just for us or for?
No, that is for the county, the township, and the school district. So the school district share would be a little over 300,000 of that. Township would be at 190,000.
I thought you said 18,000. Yeah.
18,000 is the net impact. So that was when we accounted for
Additional costs that the township would incur.
additional costs.
What costs are you accounting for? And
So
you have line that level.
yeah, so that's it's based on a distributed share across costs for like within the township's expenses. So it is it's based on apportionments of that, based on how many beds.
Is that perhaps a study that could be shared?
Yes.
The commissioners, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll send that around. We did send it around originally, but we'll send it around. We have to update it with the new numbers, but yes, we will send that around.
Thank you.
Chris, with this
Thanks.
property.
I think, I don't know who else is there in the room from Bowman, if they're still there, or from Ritu, but are there any additional comments that they want to share from either of those?
Chris, would this fit, I don't know if this is in that envelope, would this project be in the area and be eligible for the LRTA, or would it be outside the area?
As it's structured today, it is outside the area.
Okay, thank you.
Start with the board, if I ask a few questions, just to clarify.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to clarify and make sure we have your request right. So I'm looking at your concept site plan, the zoning information, there's a lot of reference to the mixed use revitalization district. But just to be clear, you're only asking for a text amendment and not a whole map change to our district. Okay.
Correct, because we originally asked, would you consider that? And that pretty much was a no, so it might be on the plan, but that is not.
And now, you were asking for a text amendment to allow a senior living facility. Have you seen the ordinance that already provides for a senior living community?
Yes.
Have you seen that definition? Is that generally the same type of thing you're looking for?
Similar, but it's a little bit different focus because I think that was done in the MURUV towards Crescent Fields. And if you look at the definition, there's some things in there that really don't work at this site. It would make it, we could probably get something that would fit within it, but it would be difficult given how the definitions are. I did read through that. I read through the whole process. I read through when the ordinance went through. And I did see in there when that ordinance went through, there was a one-time payment of $150,000 considered to offset the additional costs that would be incurred by the township, emergency medical, police, et cetera. But I did look at that. That's why it's a different zoning class, so there's a little different consideration. It applies to MURUV, just a little different focus.
Right, and I see like, it looks like the bottom, maybe 40% of the property, kind of not a straight line, it's in floodplain.
Yes.
What are you proposing for the existing building? And then I guess there's gonna be a bunch of parking spots in the floodplain area.
John, you want to talk a little bit about that because you've done some preliminary work on stormwater management and floodplain issues, et cetera.
Sure. Good evening. My name is John Anderson, Cornerstone Consulting. As Mr. Woodrow had indicated, we've done a revised in our application here. We've done a revised site plan. We're primarily focusing on improvements within the limits of the existing impervious area, meaning the parking area. The building's located to the rear of the existing building, providing a small parking area on the, I'll call it the left-hand side of the site along the road frontage, but primarily utilizing all the existing parking that's there. The building footprint that actually is on the first level is a little bit smaller. It's about 13,500 square feet. The second floor increases the actual building coverage, so we're allowed to add or show parking underneath a portion of that building. As far as stormwater management is concerned, we are aware of the floodplain issues. We've talked to Mr. Woodrow's office, concerning the impacts of the flooding in this area at the intersection, we're not going to resolve the flooding with respect to this, but we will add stormwater management to a site that does not have stormwater management today. Some of the ways that we have tried to figure out in a conceptual fashion, tried to figure out how we can manage stormwater management is to add green roof to the existing building. That doesn't necessarily take stormwater away, but it helps us manage the actual impervious coverage associated with that roof structure, and then adding areas that are beyond the floodplain, stormwater management basins, infiltration basins, if infiltration works in this area. If it doesn't, then there's other means and methods that we have in our tool bag to basically manage and comply with not only your township ordinances, but also this would require an NPDES permit, and we would have to show compliance with DEP's regulations with regards to NPDES. So again, this is a conceptual plan. If we're provided the opportunity to move forward with this, we know there's extensive land development process that we'd have to go through, and we would have to prove that we meet all your township ordinances.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
we will need a traffic study done in this intersection, correct?
Yes.
We've studied parking and traffic somewhat, but obviously without knowing whether we're gonna go ahead, we haven't done that, but yes.
Quick question again on the parking below grade, or what was that?
Is that great?
It's at grade parking just underneath a portion of the proposed structure,
Carport.
basically.
At grade.
At grade, not below grade.
Alright, because that's one of our worst flooding areas right there. That'll be a slum.
And this building and parking area is uphill from the main flooding area. It's not within the floodplain. But again, it's at grade, not below grade. Parking.
During the times of the storms and flooding, we'll get water 3/4 of the way up to where the current building stands. That whole exit off of Philmont shut down, so anything on that right side would be underwater.
But we're not doing any changes to that part of the facility.
Yeah, well, where is this area with grade? On the backside, up front, the new parking, is that what you're
New
saying?
parking's underneath,
That's what you're saying,
yeah,
up top,
top, not down here.
nothing on this side, just wanted to clarify.
No, that understood, but yes, we're not touching down there.
Yeah,
We'd have all kinds of other problems.
you know,
And
But yes, he can speak to
you
it.
wanna add the floor because you've shrunk the footprint for it in order to cut down on impervious surfacing
Right.
due to the study.
Due to the site,
And
and
the
due to also wanting to preserve the open parts of the site.
Okay.
You know, we moved it down, it's not up in the northeast corner, that wooded area is to stay, we're not gonna touch that, we originally proposed building there. And so we're trying to only change where there's already impervious coverage, except for the one little parking area. Other than that, it's only changing where there's already asphalt, we're not gonna build on where there's vacant land.
It looks like you've done a lot of homework. With regard to the over 60 foot. And I know this sits lower. Looking at that, do you know how that would sit as opposed to the height of the school building?
Well, the school building's way up on another hill way above it.
So you think that
It would, we
A
would
lot
be way
higher.
below it. If you drive up, Red Line Road, when you're driving up a hill, when you come out of this and make a right to come here, you're driving up a big hill and the school's on top of that hill, so you're not gonna see it. Because we have the trees and all that are above us, you're just not gonna see it.
And you're gonna still maintain the tree line buffer?
Yes, that tree line buffer is not going anywhere, so the tree line buffer all up in here that's in there, that's going to stay.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Frank, I don't know if you had any comments you wanted to share, just to move this along a little bit. If everything's been covered, then I'll ask for public comment.
You know, Dennis, let him answer the question of that traffic study.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bowman.
Good evening, everybody. It's getting a little crowded up here, but I'm Ben Guthrie with Graphic Planning and Design.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. So we did receive Bowman's comments on behalf of the township, but all traffic engineers, we're all set. So, well, our focus to date has been on parking. We do understand that during the land development process, a traffic study will be required by the township. And Chad Dixon from Bowman did give us some initial feedback on what would need to be included in that traffic study. Because it takes access to a state road, PennDOT would also require a traffic impact study as part of this project. So Bowman recommends as a path forward that those traffic studies proceed concurrently and be reviewed by the township and PennDOT at the same time.
To that point, obviously the board has, and I very much want to hear Frank's.
I know, you guys are doing a good job
But-
answering all my comments.
The board is honing in that there's kind of there's several problems to this, but a major component of this is a use consideration. So that's the one bucket, and we've talked a lot about that. Tim's comments and some of Frank's and where the solicitor was getting also just have to do with the land development components of what does it take to actually build whatever the use is on this site. Traffic is definitely a part of that. So I think as maybe an analogous consideration. If the feedback from the board is, hey, you would like to give this greater consideration, perhaps similar to 3993 Huntingdon Pike. Before you would ever consider a change to the zoning, you might want the applicant to go through the initial parts of that PennDOT review process to understand. There's so many more considerations than that, but I think utilizing Bowman now and the fact that they have engaged TPD would give you the opportunity to review what improvements may be necessary there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Members of the board. So just a couple items, and there was a good discussion tonight. I mean, we heard earlier from the emergency management people about the calls and so forth, and I think that was a very good discussion that the board had with the applicant on, you know, the potential impact on the emergency management operations within the township. So this project, and Tim did a good job talking about the transition from the previous plan to this plan, right? And I do agree. I think this plan is a much better plan that's being presented. Kind of checks off some major items, right? It's an infill. This is not a green project. We're not taking land that's currently undeveloped and developing with this project, right? So that's a good planning check. It's reusing a parking lot that's underutilized, right? I'm a big proponent of finding those neat spaces within the township, or it's impervious cover already. So you're not contributing to more stormwater, but they are doing stormwater management, right? So that's a positive, right? I like the whole concept about that office building being considered a reuse of maybe medical offices and other senior related uses. I think that's a real benefit to the township to have that office redeveloped. You know, no impact to the school district in terms of number of children going to the school, a significant positive impact with potential revenue going to the district, to the county, and to the township. So again, there are some major checkoffs, right? Now let's talk about maybe a little heartburn that I have. This is a full service living facility from independent living up through memory care. And when I look at the facility on the property, I don't see amenities that would be aligned with maybe the independent living, right? There's no walking trails, there's no benches, there's no gathering areas outside of maybe what's inside the facility itself. The memory care facility, you know, unfortunately, my father went through memory care, right? His facility that he lived in, they had a fenced in area outside, many different elements that they could enjoy, right? To me, and this was mentioned, it's more of an institutional type use, right? So I don't know if you can think about how you can promote some amenities outside the facility. You do show a connection to the township park, but once people get to the township park, I think it dumps them off into a parking lot. And like, what are the uses within the park that could be developed and geared towards people living in these facilities or in this facility? So for me, I like to see some type of additional amenities associated with the project, right? Again, a walking trail, some benches, a gathering area, all outside. And the one thing that we didn't really talk about was really the need for senior housing. I don't know if you have done any studies that will show that there is a pressing need for senior living from independent living through memory care, right? We know there's a housing shortage across the board, but is there a true need for senior living in Lower Moreland Township in this region?
And we have studied that. And Emily can speak to that if you want to have her speak to that.
But, you know, so that's up to the board if
If you want
they want to hear that.
speak to that issue.
I would like to speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So, there's already been since 2010 an increase within just the 15-minute drive from the subject site. There's already been a 27% increase in the number of households age 65 and older. That number is expected to increase by over 5,500 in the next 5 years. And within that, there individuals or excuse me, households that are age 65 and above that are earning over $200,000 has also been increasing and is expected to increase by 49% within the next 5 years. So there is already just within a 15-minute drive, a pretty significant increase in that older population and population that could presumably, live within this facility.
Well, we have quite a bit of senior care already. I mean, do you know, is there a typical a senior care to traditional housing ratio that, that you're aware?
I'm not aware of that. I couldn't speak to that. I know that the over half of the current renting population within the township is age 65 and above. So there is at least a large share of rental older folks who are renting currently. So there is an existing demand, but I can't speak to the that dynamic within the types of care.
Well, and that demand for portrayal is in your report?
Correct.
Okay, yes, look forward to seeing it.
Can I ask another question with regard to these numbers from the 164 beds with regard to the assisted living? Do you know, the 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, what your ratio is going to be?
They are almost all 1 bedroom. About 20 bedroom units and the rest are 1 bedroom units. That's a quick count.
What was it?
Okay, about 22 bedroom units with the remainder being 1 bedroom units. Square feet.
Okay.
I don't have the square footage of them.
So, and then the independent living, is there any 2 bedrooms or 1 bedroom? What's the ratio between the 1 and the 2 bedroom?
Independent living is 1 bedrooms.
They're all 1 bedroom,
One bedroom.
no 2 bedrooms.
No 2 bedrooms. We can create 2 bedroom if we have enough time. Right now, we did a single 1 bedrooms.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I just have another regarding the front building, your 2600 Philmont. And maybe I missed this, but what's your full intention of the front building again? You said you have a certain, the front building 72% occupied.
Yes.
So you want that to remain offices and your business use?
So lately, we are getting medical staff,
So you want
medical building.
medical.
So
staff.
if we get enough tenants, we completely make that a medical tenant building. But
Doctor's
office, it's like a therapist, we are kind of physical therapy, we have places like a surgery center, those kind of things. It's already we have quite few already. So whoever leaving the place, we try to promote to a medical unit.
Okay, have them complement.
Right, because this mixed use revitalization opens up a lot of different uses.
We're not-
and,
We're not looking at it.
Okay,
That is not on the table. Just staying in the BOI, which does allow for physicians' offices and. others.
exactly.
Correct, and that would be in this building. It's coming more in this building, and if we were to build this facility, we'd probably have even greater number of tenants in the existing building will be complementary to the.
And I'd love to go into that building for all my medical professionals at one time.
So, come back.
I would love that.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
Any other comments of those that there at the board before I open it up to public comment? Okay. Any comments from those in the room, from the public?
Come on up, Bill. The Munchkin 410. In order for this to work, obviously you figured out that cost structure. What's the cost structures to your residents? Is it a monthly?
Great.
Just wanted to wait till you got back. Get your steps in. Andy, the cost structure to your residents, you have that figured out? Is it a monthly, month to month?
Month to month.
Easy enough.
Yeah.
That was my question.
Okay, month to month, you can leave anytime. But you can have a month to month, every 3 months, a year, whatever they want.
Okay.
It's not restricted to any type of way or forms.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important.
Yeah.
Judy, come on up.
Exactly. We want to leave next month.
Right.
Bill, could you just please state your full name and address for the record?
We have.
You have it? Go
Thank you.
ahead.
Judy Moss, RN, 144 Byberry Road, 60 years as a nurse, including director of nursing homes. And I worked in pharmacovigilance with dementia patients for Pfizer for 13 years. I worked for United Healthcare and did assessments of people in nursing homes. It's the critical situation that is nursing right now. Nurses are leaving the profession. It started when they were told by the current administration they were not professionals. And then they said they couldn't get higher degrees because they weren't going to let them get government-funded loans. My best friend's husband has dementia, and he's in Meadowood. Meadowood, if you don't know it, is the Lamborghini of nursing homes. His cost is $23,000 a month. $23,000 a month. They have every amenity known to man. However, the current administration also said an RN does not have to be on duty on every floor. So the RN on duty overnight is covering the wellness center, which means people that have other sicknesses, and the dementia unit. There are on average at night 1 to 2 CNAs for 35 patients. Every bed is full. My friend's husband, until the last 2 months, never had a fall, and now he's had 3 because nobody's there. They're sitting in the break room. Well, if there's only 2 of you, you don't get to sit in the break room. You're missing the whole point. There will be more calls because you cannot staff these facilities. You just can't. I mean, they are the Cadillac. These guys go on hay rides, they go to the zoo, they go all over the place. The grounds are like, I would die to live there. They're gorgeous. Of course, I don't have $50,000 a month to live there either. But you're missing the point. If you think there aren't going to be more falls and there aren't going to be more ambulances needed, you're wrong, because nurses are leaving. They're going to Canada, or they're taking something else to do. They're going back to school and learn something where they'll be respected. We don't need this facility, and we don't need the trouble it's going to bring.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up, Mark.
Marty George, 2414 Dale Road. I had a thought. I haven't heard it officially, but what is the elevation of this building? I heard our president say another floor.
They're proposing the fifth.
Oh,
Okay, can you answer?
Why is it, well, this is just a comment now. Why is it that I have to figure that out? Why wasn't that disclosed?
What wasn't what this?
You want to increase the elevation of the building.
Mark, let us have them answer your question.
The existing building's not changing. The new building will be 5 stories tall. Trying to find the height.
That's what I'm referring to. Can I speak like this or do I have to speak yet?
That's
65 feet.
It's disclosed, it's in what we filed with the township, it's not hidden, it's disclosed.
Okay, it's not widely known, it's not widely publicized, it's on the
on the
plan. Maybe on the plan, I'm opposed to that. And I think that should be publicized. And no question, the township sold their soul. Crescent Fields for that, they made an allowance for that. And maybe that's how you got the fire truck, I don't know. But I'm opposed to that. Why wouldn't you disclose that?
It's disclosed.
I don't think anybody's trying to hide
We're
it.
not trying to put anything past anybody, it's on all the plans that they have, we submitted it
Well,
on our township.
It's on our township website.
It's on the
Okay.
website. It's on the website.
All right, thanks.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone on Zoom? Please raise your hand.
Okay. All right. Thank you for sharing this with us. And at this point, I guess, you know, we're not here necessarily for a decision. I think we need some more information. There's some questions that have been asked. I particularly, would be more interested in the traffic study and, other information before I would be willing to make any decisions at this point. So.
Dennis, I'm gonna follow up on that also because I had spoke to Attorney Keatley also about looking into the zoning with the BOI and figuring out how many parcels were zoned for that, and just in light of the board making the decision on 3993 Huntingdon Pike. And then if this parcel, whatever would happen with this, just figuring out how many we would have left with the BOI and making sure that, we have to make sure we have, parcels that are zoned appropriately under each use in our township. So, he's gonna collaborate with.
Okay.
And figure that out for us. So I do think we need more information and some areas.
There are 4 areas in the township zone BOI. We're not talking about changing this from BOI, but there are 4 specific BOI parcels in the township.
Yeah, I looked at
Driven it all.
I looked at the map, but I want to get into, but according to our population, we have to make sure,
No, understood.
we have.
I think you're gonna.
Ratio and
We're also
whatever.
going to share the financial study with it too.
I want to say one thing about traffic. I mean, it would really be premature to do any kind of a traffic impact study until we know what it is we can build. We can do some traffic work, but to do a full, we don't know what we're studying. Because unless we have a project that we can build, then it would be premature. We will send you the full economic report from the consult. And if there's anything else, please let me know, because we will try to work with everybody in the township.
I also have a question, just based on, the medical, and also what Ms. Moss said, and my grandmother also had to mention Alzheimer's. I mean, are you willing to, I know you're a caring man, since I'm coming to our meetings, and it seems like you wanna run your other facility better than the standards. Are you willing to provide and go over the state requirements? And provide more than what, on the floor, you're gonna have let me look at the numbers you just provided to us. You said you're gonna have 32 memory care patients. We have an amazing facility called Artist, and the care is unbelievable. So, are you willing to go over and above what the requirements are with regard to caring for these 32 memory care patients?
I don't know that it would be appropriate to put it in the zoning ordinance. but
No,
if it were, you could.
I'm just asking you that question.
Yeah. I can't speak.
With regard to the memory care patients.
Would you be willing to have care above the state minimum for the memory care patient?
Absolutely, because I'm a healthcare person. just like anybody else.
I remember when you said that
Okay.
to us.
I'm a registered therapist, respiratory therapist,
Yeah,
and I have a home health care company that's 26 years. So I have a staffing agency that's 26 years. I have first assisted living already good. I'm in the medical field. The only, our thing is, I wanted to give it to the community. I want to make sure seniors are well treated and make sure they get care, and they should have the best time of their life in our facility. This is not just like I'm just doing, it's a business also, we know that. That's any place that's able. But we are care for others, that's what it is. This otherwise I wouldn't have this idea. This is what I do. So even in the future, same. And this is not just minimum and to go by just for making money. That's not our style. I just want to make sure each and every one is cared and they're happy. And they're when they get older, or including me, myself. And I want the best coverage they can. That's same goal I have, just like my mother. Whatever I do for my mom, same thing. I wanted to give it to whoever come to our facility. That's the only single goal I have. Money will come. I don't think that's not a problem. But if you give it the best care, that's what.
Bristol. I mean, it's a phenomenal facility. Everything is first class, really done really well. You know, I would live there.
I think I'd like to go up and see that.
You can go to it.
So-
It's a great site. It really is to be worth seeing. To see the kind of work that he does, and quality he does, it really is worth seeing.
So, and also, I think it's important to address some of the outdoor space issue. Because just for all the residents.
Yeah, well, I agree. Having a little better, showing better connections to the park and having some outdoor area, which he has in Bristol. I agree. Again, it's partly just of the stage that we're in the development.
And just even along the Philmont corridor too.
Oh, yeah.
Even some benches, because that is the whole plan.
And there's room there. Yeah.
For walkability and someone wants to take a rest, even as they're walking down to Ridgeway Park.
It's got.
So there's just some of those comments and I'll.
They demand their patient, they need more care than anybody in the patient.
Send this back to Commissioner Mueller.
So compared to the first plan, this is definitely significantly improved. I believe we can all agree on that.
It is.
The consolidation of the land and everything else, so I definitely that this is greatly improved of their initial plan. The setback in the back left corner with the decrease in size, shifting forward using the current impervious. I think those were all great ideas that you guys had when it came to this. Again, I'm concerned, just like Ruth mentioned, about the EMS services, and so we need to factor that in, whether it be private or contracting with municipal, whatever else, to address that. The deficit or the economics that you mentioned, Emily, at the 190K perceived value for the township with the net of 18. Not sure where you're getting those numbers, so I'd love to review that and take a look at that. 300K for the school district, it's great. As Sean stated, they have a $60 million budget. It's a 0.5% increase. It's not significant, but hey, every little bit helps, especially with no impact to students. And that's a project that a lot of people in this community can get behind. Because nobody wants to see increased housing that's producing more students for what some consider to be an overcrowded district as is. So I definitely applaud you guys on that also. And again, I would probably want to take a ride out to Bristol and take a look at that facility too.
Please.
See what the quality is and everything else, especially with the potential new partner in the community.
Already the state of the art.
Can you contact the manager and let them know the address and we can.
So I'll
take a look. That will be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Joe, I would echo, most of all of your comments as well. I like seeing, additional development in that area. We have a building that's not fully occupied. I think there's, some challenges and some things around the emergency services and the care that have to be worked out yet, but I share all the same concerns that were voiced.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Make sure I give you what you want, I'll be sure. Thank you.
Is Jill or Ted there that they can come up and give the building manager's report?
Yeah, Jill Renati.
Yes, they will. So the alternative.
Hello. We had 124 permits this month, 172 inspections. We had a bunch of classes, sprinkler class, PEMA class for flooding. We went to court, and we had a lot of resident meetings.
What was the majority of the resident meetings about?
Sorry, what did you say?
What was the majority of the resident meetings?
Issues with their property that we were trying to work through.
Okay.
Complaints, different things like that.
Works for me.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions from the board or from the public?
Nope.
That concludes my agenda items. My liaison report for this month is Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. I'll meet next week, and then the Planning Commission meets later in the month, so I'll have better updates next month. That concludes my agenda items.
Thank you, Commissioner Mueller. Next is my Internal Affairs Committee. I'm gonna go down to I, review and consider deputy tax collector appointment. Last month, the board tabled discussion of the deputy tax collector appointment. Just as a reminder, Pennsylvania local tax collection law requires in section 22B that a tax collector shall, with the approval of a municipality for which the tax collector was elected, and the tax collector surety, appoint an individual as a deputy tax collector who shall collect and settle taxes during an incapacitation of our tax collector. I hope that never ever happens, Jane. Our tax collector, Jane Sale, is with us here tonight. She recommended an appointment. Bernadette Doherty. We have Bernadette Doherty's resume. It was sent to the entire board on June 2nd. And Bernadette Doherty is here with us tonight. And she is here to address any questions that any of us might have. Hi, Bernadette. Nice to meet you in person. Both of you can come on right up to the board, to the podium. It was nice speaking to you on the telephone. And we had a nice conversation. Come on up.
I've known Bernadette for 20 years. She was the tax collector in Ambler Borough when I was first elected. She was first elected. And we passed information, we assisted each other, and I have no qualms about recommending her to be my deputy tax collector.
Yes, and Bernadette did share with me that she had to fill in, unfortunately,
Yes.
for a tax collector that became ill.
Yeah, for two municipalities,
Yeah.
Ripon Township, Patty Nelson became ill and then she died. And in Lower Gwinnett, Betty Lou Yost became ill and then she died, so I had to close the books for those. And then help with the transition of the interim tax collector until the next election.
Yeah. So does anyone have any questions?
I have a question for you, Mr. Doherty. You're in real estate right now, correct?
I am.
So do you find that it would be a conflict with you being in the real estate and having access to the property taxes here alone, when that could be in delinquent or maybe even sheriff's sale, with you being in the real estate? You were not in real estate when you were a tax collector in Ambler, were you?
I was not.
Okay.
And that was said at the May 12th meeting that there's insider trading, but I wasn't even a real estate agent at that time.
Right.
But I don't think there would be a conflict. I mean,
You
for
don't
me.
think, right? What kind of access would she have, Jane?
As far as what I do.
Yeah,
She would collect the taxes when people come in, make their payments, mail them in. She would process the funds, deposit them at the bank
But only if you were incapacitated.
if I was in.
right,
capacity.
no, I don't want that. No,
Well,
right, yeah,
anything can happen.
right.
You know, I'm old. What are you gonna do? So, the report would go to the township manager, which would show all the funds collected. And the distributions, the checks would get presented at the bank, deposited into the township's account. They would go through. For the county, it would be the same way. The county has its own set of reporting standards. You fill out the form, write the checks, mail them in.
And the
School district, the same way. As far as being a real estate agent, there are tax collectors that are real estate agents. So there is no conflict of interest. They're selling properties. I find out properties that are for tax sheriff sales or delinquent. I know who's paid their taxes and who hasn't paid their taxes. I don't discuss it. That's part of our bond.
Right.
We don't do that. That's not public information. People call me and say, oh, did so-and-so pay their taxes? Absolutely not. I do not give that information, nor would Bernadette. But the access is always there for anyone. And a lot of it is public information at the end of the year. At the end of the year, anything that's not paid gets reported out and people can go and look on the county websites and see who has not been paid.
Another comment that was made on May 12th was that, there was some funny business when I was the Main Street manager, and I want to also address that. The man who was the president of Main Street at the time, he was going to come with me tonight, but he had a conflict, so he wrote this letter, and I printed a copy for everyone. So if there's any other question about funny business or insider trading, I really want to resolve that because that's not me. And I also would like to ask whoever the person was that said, I called Ambler and I got this information.
Then there was concerns.
But
Nobody accused you of anything in Ambler. There was concerns.
from somebody in
Different
Ambler,
people in Ambler, yes.
from some people.
Nobody in
It's a
Ambler
workshop.
said anything unprofessionally about you, Mrs. Dockley, okay? There were
It's
concerns,
my
that's why,
reputation.
as a commissioner, I have to protect the taxpayers. That's my job, okay? And there were concerns, and I brought the concerns to the board, okay? And you came here, I asked you a question. I do believe there is a conflict with real estate and taxes. I do. I looked to see who's in real estate and a tax collector. I haven't found any yet. Maybe you can give
They
me.
may have retired by now, but they
Right,
have.
I haven't found any, but I do think it's a conflict with real estate and tax collector. That's
In
just.
way though, that's what I.
Well, they have all the
understand.
information. They have everything available to them.
Yeah, but Chuck, I'm a realtor and I can pull
You
that
have
information.
too.
I can pull that information.
That's all public information.
I can pull all that information,
But I understand what you're saying.
Right,
I appreciate that, but I'd like you to trust me that that is not me. And I would never take information that I would get from this township and then run after that person and say, hey, can I
I
sell?
never said that you would do that.
No, I'm
Neither
just
did nobody
confirming.
in this board say that. My concern was the real estate.
Piece of it.
Piece of it.
Okay.
That was my concern. And that's, me as a township commissioner, that's a concern to me.
If you were called up, would you stop that line of business when you were in this position?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning.
If you were called up, if the situation occurred where you had to become our tax collector, would you stop your real estate business to
No.
do that?
I'm almost retired. I sell one house a year, so I'm not gonna give up my license, you know?
So,
And I've really got into real estate to help my family and friends. So, no, I'm not gonna give up my license.
Right, and I asked you, Bernadette, have you ever sold any real estate in Lower Moreland Township? And you answered me.
I have not sold in Lower, but that doesn't mean that I couldn't. I have a Pennsylvania state license. But no, I've never. My little bailiwick is Ambler, Horsham, that area. It's my neighborhood, I know my neighbors. But I appreciate your concern. I do. Anybody else have any questions?
Anybody else have any questions? Any other questions for Bernadette? Would anyone have any public comment in the room? Anyone on Zoom? Any hands raised? Okay, hearing none.
Thanks for your time.
Hearing none. Do I have a motion to appoint
I'll make the motion.
Bernadette Doherty as deputy tax collector? Is there a second? There a second?
Second,
Motion's been moved and seconded to appoint Bernadette Doherty as deputy tax collector. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
aye,
Aye.
All those in favor, please signify by saying nay.
No, all those against.
I mean,
Against.
all those. All those not in favor, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, Chris, do you have a?
Sorry.
Yep, 4-2.
Sorry,
Yep, motion carries.
the motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Doherty, for wanting to be our deputy tax collector.
I've known Jane for so long, why wouldn't I want to help her? And in turn, help you.
Thank you. Thank you for wanting to help Lower Moreland Township. Okay, I will go back to my first item on my agenda, review and consider minutes of May 12th, 2026. Commissioners, do you have any questions or comments regarding our minutes?
I have one comment on the,
Sure.
on the previous issue that was reported last month. There was, I was reported as nay for not being in favor of bringing Bernadette back today. That, I don't believe that was my vote, so.
We will make that.
Okay.
There will-
No other questions or comments from me on it.
Change. Anyone else? Any public comment? Do I have a motion to approve the May 12th, 2026 minutes with Commissioner Mueller's change?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the May 12th, 2026 minutes with Commissioner Mueller's change to the minutes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is review and consider June 2026 bill list. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions, comments? Ruth, I'm sure you sent yours in regarding the bill list. Does anyone from the public have any questions regarding our published bill list? Anyone in the room? Anyone on Zoom? Leah? Anyone?
Nope. I'll make the motion to approve.
Second, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the June 2026 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's passed. Thank you, commissioners. Next is review and consider our records destruction resolution. So we have a list of records that it's our annual list of records eligible for destruction in accordance with the provisions of the municipal records retention and disposition manual. So this program allows the township to effectively manage our records with the limited space that we have. We have a resolution. It updates our list, adding a year to each category. Commissioners, you have that list. It includes our administration and legal records from 2013 to 2023, personnel records 2018 to 2023, our payroll records 2017 to 2022, our general finance records 2018 to 2022, tax collection and assessment records 2020 to 2023, our public works is in there 2019 to 2023, waste management and sewer disposal records 2022 and 2023, planning, building, zoning, code enforcement records. There's some building permit applications for 2020, zoning hearing applications 2022,
Commissioner, if anybody would like to hear the full list, it is
Well,
available in my office.
There we go. I got one more. So fire records 2015 and 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Great. Is there a second? Motion has been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2626 authorizing a records destruction program. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. This next one's a difficult one. It's review and consider our township manager's resignation.
Denied.
Denied.
Yeah. So this agenda item I have to report on is very bittersweet. And I've been very fortunate to work with and alongside of Manager Hoffman for the entire time he has been with us in Lower Moreland Township. And as we're all aware, Manager Hoffman, Chris, submitted a 60-day notice to the board on Monday, June 1st. So Solicitor Rice recommends that the board formally consider accepting his resignation by motion. So we have a letter in our tablet. So I'm going to try to read this without choking up. We'll see how I do. Let me bring this up.
It's okay.
No, I'm going to read it. I have to read it to the public really quick because it's a beautiful letter. So it says, "Dear Denise, it's with great gratitude and sadness that I submit this letter of resignation to the Board of Commissioners this morning. I am fortunate to have been selected as the next township manager for Middletown Township, Bucks County. Lower Moreland Township is the only place I've worked during my nearly 16-year career in local government. In my time as township manager, I have had the pleasure to work for 15 commissioners, including 3 presidents. I owe much of my career success and my personal well-being to this group who entrusted me to lead the township organization during this time. I want to sincerely thank each of you for your service, collaboration, and support. It is particularly challenging for me to leave our wonderful township staff. We are lucky to have such dedicated and capable professionals throughout our organization. I will forever appreciate my time in Lower Moreland because of this group, and I will miss them dearly. My employment agreement requires that I provide 60 days notice of my resignation. Therefore, my final day in Lower Moreland will be Friday, July 31st. Under separate cover, I will provide my tentative schedule for June and July so we can coordinate the weeks ahead. Thank you for the opportunity to work and grow in Lower Moreland together, in the Lower Moreland community. Respectfully yours, Christopher R. Hoffman, Township Manager. See, I did okay. So Chris, I just want to tell you, I can remember the first day you took the position as assistant manager and you were sitting right like kind of where Jane Sale is back there with your mom and dad. And then shortly thereafter, you became our manager, and it seems like yesterday. Your motivation, your commitment, and your dedication, devotion, and tireless efforts, along with your ability to stay focused, was recognized by all of the commissioners all these years, as well as professionals in all of Montgomery County and beyond. You shortly became known. I have to like have my bullet points because if I get choked up, as one of the most well-respected township managers in all the counties in Pennsylvania, and we have had the best. We have been truly blessed to have you. We really have. I truly say that from my heart and from all of us. Lower Moreland Township has been fortunate to have you as our manager for almost 2 decades. Collaborating with you enabled us to achieve many goals. We are looking forward to your input over the next 2 months during this transition. We know you're leaving us and Lower Moreland Township in good hands. Our entire board and Lower Moreland Township thanks you, and we wish you continued success in your new role. And that's it. We adore you.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask the board if they have any other comments. I had to say something and not just accept this resignation. Because, yeah, I would like to deny the resignation, but that wouldn't be nice. So I'm gonna open it up just to the board.
I would prefer to make my comments in a less public forum. I hope you understand.
I did that also.
I will find a way to understand.
Yes, I did that also, but I had to say something. So if anybody would like to even just say something short to Chris, they can do so, but I wrote this on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, Denise. It's eager for,
But if you
Yeah,
have
July,
something even tonight,
I'll
we have.
provide a response at some point, but
We're gonna hold on, we're gonna hold on for the next 2 months, you know? Every day is really gonna be meaningful,
Yes, sir.
spending time with you. So, you know. Since I have to make a motion, I'd like to open the floor to anyone from the public that would like to extend well wishes to our manager at this time. They'd like to do so, they can. If not, anyone in the room? Anyone on Zoom? You don't have to. You don't have to.
Denise.
Good, good.
Jim Sale, 2126 Winthrop. Chris, I enjoyed the time I worked with you. I've been on the Township Authority, working with you ever since you started, since I've been in there second longest along with Frank. And you're always very knowledgeable, providing great information, and you always put up with my questions. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone? Yeah. I will make a motion to accept manager Hoffman's resignation. Do I have a second?
Second.
It came through from Zoom.
Okay, the motion's been moved and seconded to accept manager Hoffman's resignation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, we are regretfully accepting this resignation this evening. Okay, motion is passed. Motion's passed. Okay, next.
You quitter, it's all right.
Yes, yeah.
You don't have to take it.
Yes.
This is more so what I was looking for.
Next is our administration report, manager Altman.
I don't think I would dare follow that up with a report. If you have any questions from what I've submitted, please ask.
There we go.
Tax report.
Okay, assistant manager, EJ Lee's report. There's some nice stuff on there. Will you report that?
Just say the same thing.
Yeah, that's hard to follow.
You do, you could,
Summer
summer rec, how many?
We're at 80 registrants and I have not had more inquiries if it's too late to register this week. So I'm expecting that number to go up between now and next week, but 80 is a great number.
80 is good.
Yeah, that's usually our target number.
When is the last day that residents
We
can
would like
register
to
their
wrap it up
kids?
by this Friday so that our summer rec coordinator can reach out to families to give them information about summer rec and things like that. But we're always open to last minute registrants as space is available and as we can come.
So we're trying, so I think we might be able to
This
get
Friday.
to 100 by Friday, maybe, with the calls coming in?
Possibly.
Okay, so that's for everybody. Sign your kids up for our amazing Lower Moreland Township Summer Recreation Program. It's a wonderful program. We're trying to get those registrations in by Friday. Okay, thank you, EJ. I will accept your report and Manager Hopkins' report as submitted. My liaison reports, Kelly O'Brien sent me.
Jane's request.
Oh, Jane, well, Jane, Here you are. Tax collectors report, Jane Sale is here with us. Live, Jane, elected tax collector. Here you go.
So base collection of taxes for this year stands at 91.0894%. Actual collection stands at 89.3016%. The outstanding balance for the township taxes is $695,560. Trash stands at $192,090. Reminder letters were sent out this past week. EJ posted for social media. Thank you very much. The due date for taxes is Friday, June 19th. We will be having extra hours on Thursday, June 18th from 6 to 8, and on Friday, June 19th from 9 to 4:30.
Does anyone else have any questions? of
And
Jane?
you can do an imitation, Chris.
Perfect.
Yeah. Does anyone from the public have any questions or comments for our tax collector? Hearing none, thank you, Jane. I'll accept your report as submitted. I'll go to my liaison reports. Under Moreland Township, DEI, Excellence in Education, I sent the board the student well-being survey. It's a nice survey, and they have a lot of categories. They showed improvements in their report that was sent out. It was a student well-being. It's a holistic student approach from their survey that they sent out, and there's always opportunities for growth, and they're going to work on that. And I sent it to the board today. So take a look at that. Under HVAA, their season is wrapping up, and the kids had a great season, and they're going to playoffs. Allie sent me 2 travel baseball teams have advanced to the Suburban League Championship. In-house baseball ended the season with several sandlot games. 2 in-house softball teams have made it to the next round of the ISA tournament. Travel and in-house soccer registrations have opened up for the fall. So if anyone's interested in that, sign your kids up. Adult softball will start in a couple of weeks in Albadale, and they're getting ready in the summer for their next seasons. So that's HVAA. I already announced with regard to the township, the summer recreation program with regard to Lower Moreland Township community events. There aren't any events taking place over the summer, but please enjoy everything that our library has in place. Joe will report on that. And for the township, we're having the Pine Road School on Thursday and Friday. 2nd grade is coming to visit us for the Lower Moreland Township and LMPD tour. So we're looking forward to seeing them. If any of the commissioners want to come on over to the township building around 9:30, and you could see the kids. That concludes my agenda, and next the chair recognizes Sean Blanton, Chair of the Ordinance Committee. Sean.
Thank you, Commissioner Curtis. I had 2 items on my agenda tonight. The first is to review a zoning amendment proposal. There are actually 2 items that I will discuss. The first is an idea introduced by Commissioner McDade at our last month's meeting, and the other is being recommended by our staff. And I'll start with the first item, which is about fences. So as a reminder, the township zoning ordinance permits 6-foot high privacy fences in the rear and side yards. We discussed this briefly last month, but there's a consideration here to allow for fences of a greater height when properties meet certain criteria, particularly when they're in the proximity of non-residential uses and other features. And so I'm going to go through a couple of bullets that might identify what those features may be and how we can be specific about this particular amendment for the board's consideration. So the first point here is just to make sure that we understand that specificity is key. So we identify which zoning districts will permit a higher fence and the corresponding conditions. It's going to help our officers administer that code. It's going to help our zoning hearing board hear cases on these fronts. So here are some of the details we're looking to identify. An increased fence height, we're proposing from 6 foot to 8 foot to be considered for rear and side yards. So the first, this would not apply to front yards or to corner properties with dual frontage. The fence height of up to 8 feet would be permitted in the following districts: RSD 2, RSD 3, and RSD 4, but only when meeting certain conditions. The first would be the property adjoins a parcel in the MUREB, MUMHPC, the BOI, or the BIND districts, or if the property adjoins a railroad. And the increased fence height would not be permitted if the property's rear or side yard has frontage on a state or local road. The reasoning here is that the road width is a sufficient buffer, but a property which adjoins both a road and a property in multiple zoning districts could have a taller fence in this particular instance in the yard which adjoins the private property. There are some other considerations for the board. I'm wondering if Manager Hoffman, if you want to walk us through some of these considerations as they were put together.
Sure. Commissioner, do you mind if I borrow your tablet, my computer?
No.
So the first was that because of how and when this came up, wanted to be clear that looking at the zoning map and possible ideas for how to create these conditions. The one thing that this doesn't address is the potential of a development at 3993 Huntingdon Pike, because the proposal there requires a zoning change from the BOI to the MUBC. So at this point, what was just described would not allow those neighboring properties a higher fence. So if that is something that you would wish to allow, we would need to determine what kind of parameters can you put into the zoning ordinance to allow for that to happen, where it would then not impact other areas because of where the majority of the village center district is and how small the bulk of those lots are along the Huntingdon Pike corridor. We did not initially recommend that be included. The next was just wanting to call out, just as a look from the zoning map, that the RSD 2 and RSD 4 district does have homes that are adjoining to the Pine Road School. We did not include the special purpose education district as an adjoining zoning district where this would be permitted, but based off of the footprint of that school, we did not think that that was necessary, as well as some of the other features that are between those homes and the school property there at Pine Road. The next one was that we did not include any of the residential uses in mixed use districts because the residential property, or if a property is in a mixed use district and it is currently residential, there are other uses that are possible for it. So we wouldn't want to, I think we're trying to keep this within just the framework of residential uses. There are specific regulations regarding that site for certain commercial uses, so we would have to see if that's sufficiently applied. And then finally, we did not include the RSD1 in this because there are no RSD1 parcels that either adjoin any of those mixed use or business districts or a railroad. So while otherwise we would have included it, but it just did not seem like it was necessary because that is your largest plot residential with no adjoining properties there.
Awesome. Thank you, Manager Hoffman, for walking us through some of those additional considerations. I know there's a lot of numbers, a lot of acronyms, so I'm just going to do a quick summary and then I'll ask the board and then the public for any questions they might have. So the proposal here is to allow for certain residential districts to enact an 8-foot fence, where typically a 6-foot fence would be allowed. It would only be in their backyards or side yards in this particular instance. And the conditions to be met would really have to have them either join to one of the following zoning districts: the MUREB, the MUMHPC, the BOI, or the BIND. So these are non-residential districts that tend to have either larger buildings or different uses that a resident may want to create more privacy between. The alternative would be if the property joins a railroad. As we know, we have a railroad that cuts through the town, and so there are a number of houses that butt against that. Are there any questions from the board regarding this proposal or any of the considerations that were put into it?
No.
I just have one, Sean. With the zoning map change at 3993 Huntington Place, okay, if it does go through, then people will actually be up against a back of taller buildings that are there now. So we did ask this about height when the gentleman was here.
Mm-hmm.
So we could just have some consideration for, I think there's 6 houses, right? But one, is that Sheffield that backs up to that?
Yeah.
So there's 1, 2, I think 3 houses. And then there would be the side yard of that young kid that was here, okay? That we take into consideration allowing them to have that height. So they don't have that noise and pollution, the light pollution and stuff, and they could be somewhat have a decent backyard instead of looking at a building behind them. I mean, we can take that under consideration. It would be nice to look at to see if we can allow them to have a higher
And
fence.
we'll workshop some ways to
Okay.
address that and distribute that to the board before any ordinance would be advertised.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public regarding this particular proposed amendment? Yes.
Just the point of the Huntingdon Pike and County line. If you're changing it and people put up 8-foot fences, is it gonna be uniform? So you have those 3 houses on Sheffield, the back's going up to the back of that building. Who's gonna put the fence up? Is the commercial building gonna put the fence up, or is the individual houses, and then is it gonna be uniform in the future?
Right, so for
And then what type of fencing? Is there a type of, there's chain link, there's the shadow box, there's all kinds of.
So for what is being discussed here, it is for an active decision being made by the residential property. I think separate of that, in a like potential future land development application for 3993 Huntington Pike, there probably are buffer requirements and components of the land development plan that the board can impose, which may actually accomplish the same thing, if not better. Right. So that is another way to be able.
Well, that would be my preference too, is that if that project goes through, is to put it on the land developer. If the residents that are along there, if that's something that they're interested in, I would see if I could build it into that project, that it's consistent, it looks nice, and the cost is then on the land developer because the houses that are along there would be most impacted. So that's the way I would prefer to do it.
Yeah, the reason why we bring this particular property up is because it was in that discussion.
Yeah.
Where we heard this particular idea. Yeah, so just for the greater context, so we're just calling that out because that was the consideration that this came up with, but there were other considerations, and this is where we felt like was a good place to land it on.
And to the other question about kind of being uniform in types of materials, so it would be whatever we currently permit for fences. I think the only greater restrictions are that if you're in a HOA that has another tier of restriction from what we have or regulation from what we have.
Right.
And also from neighbor to neighbor, some people will coordinate on shared fences, some people will do things separately. So I don't think there can be a municipal requirement for them to be.
Thank you for your comments and your questions. Are there any other questions from the public? Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, I'd like to talk about the second item on our list. Actually, in this particular one, because this is a recommendation from staff, I will also call on Manager Hoffman to talk us through what he's proposing in this particular instance.
This one I've got.
Okay, got it.
So just if you'll recall through our discussions about the fire rescue station location, that is in the MURO district, so residential office. So the premise for the areas along Huntingdon Pike where that applies are that they're often kind of these older, larger homes that maybe have some like legal office or something like that use that could be another option for that problem. As is kind of a traditional ordinances in the MUR, we broadly permit municipal uses so that if we were to own property there, we could make the decisions that we need to make as long as we are otherwise compliant with the district. For reasons that I have not been able to put back together in 2014, when the MURO was created, fire protection use was specifically not permitted, even though that site had already been identified as the recommended location for a future firehouse. So I think there's two ways that we can address this. One is to just make the fire protection use permitted, but maybe an even simpler one is just to leave it as a municipal use and delete the reference to fire protection. And I think our analysis for that will just be based off of how the NAICS code, which is the premise for the uses, functions in other districts, and make sure that there isn't something that we open up unintentionally. But this has always been the site. The premise was always to utilize municipal uses as the basis for it, but we think it would just be far more transparent to be able to address the zoning now, so that at the point that this is before you as a land development, we have taken care of any like potential hiccup from his zoning perspective.
Would the structure of the consolidated firehouse impact that zoning? I mean, if you're using a not-for-profit and not municipal employees running the firehouse, does that change how you would?
That's a good question. Maybe that's a reason to call it fire protection.
Right. So,
We'll look at the next definition. We are still going to be the owner of the building. And they will be providing a service that is obligated by this board of commissioners. But yeah, I think it's that sort of question of just the analysis. What's the best way to modify the ordinance just so that there isn't this kind of unnecessary discrepancy in there?
Thank you for the question. Are there any other questions from the board? Any of them in public? Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none. If it's agreeable to the board, I'd like to authorize, or I'd like to have us author a motion to draft and advertise the zoning ordinance amendment as we've described in both of these particular items. I'll make a motion to do that, to draft and advertise the zoning ordinance amendment as described.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to draft and advertise the zoning ordinance amendment as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion's passed. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Second item on my agenda is to review the zoning hearing board agenda for this month and the decisions rendered in last month's meeting. Coming up in this month, there are 6 applications on the June agenda. And I'll go through now. I'm going to go through all of them. Please hold your questions, and if you have any, I'll make time at the end. The first is application number 26-07. This is the application of Daniel and Alicia Valentino of 2283 Valley Road, who seek an interpretation regarding a detached in-law suite. Based on that interpretation, the application may convert to request a variance from the provision that in-law suites must be attached to the primary structure. The second is application number 26-08. This is the application of Nicholas Sidis, assuming I'm saying that wrong, of 560 Red Lion Road, who seeks a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 11 feet 3 inches for an existing non-conforming accessory structure. The next application is number 26-09. The application of Sekrov Ramazov of 700 Lisa Circle, who seeks a variance to permit increased lot coverage of 47.2%, where 25% is permitted, to replace an existing pool, patio, deck, and outside bathroom. The existing non-conforming lot coverage is 43.7%. Application number 26-10 is the application of Aziz Igrashev of 593 Newell Drive, who seeks a variance to allow a pool house to be 21.4 feet from the rear property line, where 25 feet is required. The fifth, application number 26-11, is the application of Piro Karadani of 2151 St. Albert Circle. They seek a variance to permit a 6-foot tall front yard fence on the address side to memorialize an existing 6-foot fence on the Welsh frontage, to increase lot coverage to 29.6%, where 25% is permitted, and to reduce the side yard setback to allow a detached garage. The existing lot coverage is 26.9%. And finally, the last application is application number 26-12. This is the application of Lance Dotsman of 1015 Carriage Lane, who seeks a variance to allow a reduction of the front yard setback to 44 feet, where 50 feet is required to allow construction of a portico. Are there any questions from the board regarding any of the 6 items on this month's agenda for the zoning hearing board?
I have no questions on the items, but I have a general question and topic, so I can wait until afterwards, but it's around zoning. So not on these specific, but we can. I guess I just want to reserve a place in line for when we're done discussing these 5 items to make a comment.
I will certainly come back to you when we are done through the agendas. Is there any questions from the public regarding these agenda items? Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none, I will talk about the decisions rendered in the May hearing, of which there were 3. The first was application number 26-02. This was the application of Chad Glickstein of 2290 Welsh Road, who sought a variance to increase lot coverage to 25.66%, where 25% is permitted. The variance was granted. Application number 26-05 was the application of Jeffrey Silverman of 798 Welsh Road, who sought a variance to permit bicycle rental use at an existing car wash business. The zoning hearing board granted a temporary variance through October 31st of this year and limited the number of available rentals to 12 with a maximum of 2 electric bikes. And finally, the application number 26-06, which was the application of MAG Company LLC for 2028, 2056, 2062 Huntingdon Pike. They saw variances for outside storage and wall freestanding signs. These variances were granted. Any questions about the decisions rendered in last month's meeting? Anyone from the public? Anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, I will allow Commissioner Mueller to ask his question regarding general zoning topics.
Yeah, so, I struggle with these, listening to them, every month because there are certain topics that come up all the time, specifically around lot coverage. But then there's other minor ones. And one of the applications that's in front of the zoning board this month is a resident that called me, and it's application 2612. But his questions and my comments are not necessarily directed at his particular issue. I think Commissioner CANALE at one point brought this up, a number of months ago with respect to fencing, and we made a change to our ordinances. In some of these cases where we have applications for zoning relief, they're relatively minor, and the one that we're talking about that kind of raised this month is the 2612 one, which is the 1015 Carriage Lane. His building envelope his house is pushed up against the 50 feet setback, and what he's trying to do is put a very small porch awning that's attached to his building, and it's a relatively minor thing. But the issue here is the cost in order to get in front of the zoning board. And I think the fee is $1,000, and that the township charges for residents, and I think that's even being subsidized according to Manager Hoffman to some extent, and how we're to recover all of our costs for these things. And I guess what I'm asking here is, I know there's within the state there's a number of bills. There's a House bill and a Senate bill that's in front of the legislator to make changes to how advertising is performed. And our costs, I think, are mainly driven up by the advertising cost to be able to put this into newspapers and such. I think it's an unreasonable amount of money for residents to be able to ask for very simple changes in zoning variances. And what I'd like us to do, if there's agreement here, is for us to maybe look at a historical review of some of these, the zoning that has come up where people are looking for relief, what's been granted, and if there's changes that we can make, because I think that the advertising legislation in front of the House and Senate now is probably some time away. But if there's things that we can do that maybe change things, and in this particular one, maybe there's an option to, instead of having 50 feet, it's 45 feet. Maybe this wouldn't have helped him, but maybe 40 feet. That we don't have to have residents have to go in front of the zoning board for relatively minor variances and add significant costs to be able to do that. And in some of these cases, the cost to get in front of the zoning board is a significant percentage of the overall project cost for some of these minor things. And I just want to be clear, I'm not necessarily in support of individuals who seek relief from structures they've already built. So I don't know how to reconcile that. I'm not in favor of when there's impervious surfaces that's impacting stormwater, that's 40-50%, and they already have something. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that. I know there'll be some challenges in how maybe we go about this, but I do feel that for some of these relatively minor variances that are requested, folks get caught up in this bureaucratic, advertising scheme of advertising in newspapers that's very expensive and quite frankly, nobody is even reading anymore. So I don't know if there's something that we can do there, but that's my long-winded comment to maybe taking a look at this.
Thanks, Dennis. So Dennis, what, Montgomery County Association of Township Commissioners and Pennsylvania State Association of Township Commissioners are really rallying to try to,
Yeah, it's far away though. I know
with
there's
regard to the expenses of this and the advertising and whatnot, but and bringing it up with the legislators where it is. Like I said, I made some phone calls. I'll try to find out where that is in the process for you.
It seems like it's still pretty far away, and the ask
It is pretty far away.
is that if there's things, if to do a historical review of these variances that are requested, and if there's a common thread of ones that might be a little bit minor. We did it with fencing, recently, for this specific reason, and maybe there's some other opportunities that we can do something with to change some of our ordinances that don't have a significant impact on, on stormwater or some of the other things that we're trying to do to be able to provide some cost relief for some of these variances. That's, so that's the ask.
I think we can do that historical research and kind of set it in the context of maybe things that are closer to being like de minimis variance requests. So in this instance, it's a encroachment of a small portico structure into the front yard setback. But if we were to look at the last 5 years worth of zoning hearing applications, how many things could you put into a bucket that you can then regulate in a way? It can't be a moving standard. It has to be something that is definitive for Ted and Jill to be able to render decisions on.
Understood. Yeah, I understand.
So how do we accomplish that so that's something that, so like for this example, you would have to be specific enough for front yard setback encroachments, but you would have to define where is your point where it becomes too much. And is it the square footage? Is it the length along the front of the house? Is it the proximity to your neighbors? Is it the, whatever those standards would be? I think this is a very logical frustration and question that poses a much harder solution. But we can certainly take a look.
And what's tough for the township too is this is all state law under the MPC, which is also getting looked at for a rewrite, but the MPC makes us put these to the zoning hearing board. It gives them exclusive jurisdiction over any kind of variance request. So the township staff doesn't even have the authority for this jurisdiction to grant variances on its own. But what you could do is just like an administrative delegation, like what we were saying, like a bright line where if you're under a certain amount of relief requested that makes it de minimis, there could be some type of waiver of a fee, something like that. That will be all right. But variances can only be granted legally by the zoning hearing.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that, I think the fencing that we did a couple months ago was a good example of that, right? Because that was something that came up all the time. And I know we had the conversations, as part of these meetings to say, hey, look, if someone's asking for a fence on a side yard, it's kind of ridiculous to do. So we made that change. And what I'm asking now is there other easy things that we could definitively state that would provide some additional relief? And some of that might be related to the front yard setbacks. I'm not necessarily in favor of blanketly, allowing sheds and other structures in the rear yard to be pushed up against people's properties or to do things around that have a significant impact on stormwater. So I'm not suggesting that, but I'm asking for just like this historical review. And if there's something there that we can do, like the fence, then maybe that's something that there's an opportunity for us to provide, some, greater relief to residents and the impact for applying for variances. I don't know if there is, but it's an ask.
We can take a look within the parameters of the law and what Ted and Jill were telling me and Manager Hoffman was the cost of the court reporter, right, Ted and Jill, and the attorney's fees. And what else? Was there one more thing that went up? And the advertising
Advertisement and.
went up and they had to cover those costs because I don't
get
even,
I get.
I think it even cost us a little bit more.
But if there's something that we can do, if the front yard setback, we can change to 45 feet and that makes a difference, and then maybe that doesn't have a giant impact on, what we're trying to do.
And doing something that would fundamentally alter the building envelope of every existing parcel that you apply it to, I think is too far of a solution. So it has to be better specified than that, because I think it would be opening like a Pandora's box of possibilities that I absolutely hear you on the frustration of the concept.
Let's come up with some things.
But yeah, let's come up with some recommendations to see if we can accomplish the thing that you're saying. It has not been immediately apparent as it was for other topics we've covered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably the way to go is a discount on the fee for certain projects.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
The cost of the cost, the premise of a discount would be, we think everybody else should pay into your variance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not
That's the way that we
suggesting
can
that,
control.
I don't think that we should be, we shouldn't be losing money on this either, right? So this is where I'm torn, and I didn't say it was easy. So,
Well, our zoning officers have offered to propose some solutions. We can take a look at those, talk about them. We can see if there's anything that we can do about that. So
yeah, that's all we have.
for bringing this up and advocating for the residents of this township. This does conclude my agenda, so I will pass it back to Commissioner KURITZ.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Blanton, and thank you so much, Commissioner Mueller. Next chair recognizes Commissioner McDade, Chair of the Public Works Committee.
Thank you,
It's
Commissioner.
up to you.
We have one item on the agenda. Public Work is preparing with the 2026 paving program. One street included in this year's project is the Ridgeview Road. Ridgeview northern intersection with Wheatsheep Road has a water issue dating back to the 1990s.
Yeah.
So Steve and Tim were out there. They had determined the most efficient and cost-effective remedy is to add an inlet. We've done the concrete work, pardon me?
We're still working on it.
Still working on the concrete work.
This bid includes concrete work.
It does include concrete work. Okay, so what they're recommending is that they connect the inlet with a flooding issue to another inlet in that same intersection that will relieve the flooding and icing and snowing build up around that inlet. So Steve has a quote for approximately $21,500, which the project below bid limit. They will require a receipt of 3 quotes. From now, we recommend the board authorize the project at a cost not to exceed $22,500 to give a small buffer. Given the stormwater implications, the funding for this project will come from the stormwater fund cash balance. Does the board have any questions? Public? This is an improvement for the intersection that we think will solve.
It's horrible.
So,
It's really bad.
we can make a motion to authorize the Wheatsheep for review improvement as described for a cost not to exceed $22,500.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to authorize the weed chief to do improvements as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passed. Thank you, commissioners.
And I will turn to Public Works Fund and receive. Thank you.
I'll give you a couple things. Sorry I didn't get my written report into you guys, but we're doing our prep for paving right now still, so we're finishing some stuff on Ridgeview, and then we have a couple inlets on St. Albert Circle and Heaton Road, and we have some base repair. We're gonna do it even before the pavers come in. I'm meeting the pavers on Thursday, so I'll get that scheduled as soon as I get it. I work with EJ and get it up on the tentative website so everyone knows what's happening. And we'll hand out letters like we always do to all the affected streets. The demo of the garage and the cleanup of 2560 Fetters Mill is just about done. That's all going now. So we'll have a clean slate down there, and I'll get together with Tim and come up with some ideas with Ms. Menzel and Commissioner Helson. We'll get the stone pile out of there. Or Comcast house or communication house over here that we get rent for.
on the tower there, we had some termite damage in there, so we took care of the termites. And we had some joists that we're having repaired that should be happening this week, so we have a contractor in there to shore that up. Transition talked about. The basic construction at Rand Run is going on now. I stop over and see Tim's inspectors out there just about every day, so our contractor's working there. Once he's done there, school's over, he'll switch over to the Pine Road basin. And that's about all I got.
Steve, quick question. I know they're doing underground utility work up in 4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren, what's the requirements of the contractor to restore the yards and stuff?
So it's gotta go back to the way it was before they
So
started.
they got resodded.
Yeah, so they'll usually do a lot of topsoil and seed. It'll be very nasty for a while, and then they'll come back and they'll rebuild it. It's gotta go back to the way it was. Yeah.
I wanted to ask just as far as Philmont in the project, or last we had spoke, your anticipation was that shortly following school ending, like they might be in preparation to repave.
Yep, I talked to them today that they're still on schedule for mid-June to repave. So
Nice.
that's
True.
Red line in Philmont, they still have.
so our contractor actually did come back
I seen
in.
him.
Yeah, so he started back in today. I
Verizon.
know so he's gonna work around their poles and.
That's what he's
Yeah,
Working around the poles. But they're gonna come out and remove them poles after he did all that work there, right?
yeah.
We're working backwards.
Yeah, a little bit, but he wants to get his work done.
Yeah, I know, he needs to get out of there.
Pico Gas has started on Byberry Road. We already had a couple issues with them working past 3 o'clock. So I did talk to the PennDOT's permit so that we stayed on them to make sure they are off that road by 3 o'clock.
And then there's another one coming.
Yeah, so Welsh Road, Pico Gas Main is gonna continue on. That's from Holcomb to to Elbow to the Abington line to go now, like, so it's only a small section for us. And then the big one for us is gonna be Huntingdon Pike from Red Line to Albin. That's gonna be night work. So we do have to give our blessing, it's okay to do it at night. I don't see how you would want to do that during the day. Install gas main on Huntingdon Pike from Red Line to Albin.
What's the length of that, do you know? Yeah, the length.
3,400 feet.
It's 34 feet.
Something like that, 3,300. Maybe you looked at it.
Yeah.
I gave you that. That's scheduled to start sometime in August. So I'll try to keep them on.
Steve, the last one, I got 3 phone calls in the last 2 days, saying there's supposed to be a brownout or something up in Ward 4. I haven't heard anything about it.
I
Do you
didn't-
know anything?
No.
You heard anything?
No, I looked at them. Okay. No.
Yeah, they were saying up to 12 to 24 hours, no power. I'm like,
Did they get a letter from Pico?
Yeah.
that's what they're claiming, the one resident.
If they can send us a copy of it, that would be very
Yeah,
helpful.
that sounds a little strange.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I'm like, it's not like, 12 to 24 hours power.
And in our project, Aqua is starting in just the farm section, that project they're doing again, Walsh. Rose Drive.
Do you hear that, Commissioner Mueller?
All I heard was Gant.
The Aqua's starting up in your neighborhood, Gant, Rhodes, Walsh, that project is starting now.
The folks on Huntington Pike know that the overnight work is gonna be starting.
I'm sure the PICO will hand out the letters beforehand. So I guess the only residence it's gonna hurt is up above, right above Buck Road, so it'll be that short
There's
area.
not a lot.
No,
It's not a lot, but it doesn't mean it's not.
no, it's gonna
I
be.
know.
It's gotta be.
They said,
Right.
Yeah, Aqua is our repave also.
Yeah, so what we usually do is at the end of it, I work out a deal with them, and I take them on and we pay them.
That'll allow us to do full width
Yeah.
restoration.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Steve.
That's the end of our report. Public Works, just the liaison of the school district. They have one more meeting in June. Tomorrow night's graduation for our seniors, and then they're off the month of July. like I asked you, why can't commissioners be off?
Chuck would like to be off. The month of July.
Second was made by.
Second made by
Chuck thinks we need to be off.
I tried, Steve. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Commissioner McDade, next the chair recognizes Commissioner Hales and Chair of the Public Property Committee. Ruth.
Okay, this is kind of complicated. It's about the pond at Huntingdon Place. Every few years, they get new people on their pond committee, and they come to us and look for a solution, some other way to pay for or the maintenance that they are required to do based on the agreements that were put in place when the place was opened, when it was built. This was their stormwater facility for the development of that pond. But they have asked us to write a letter saying that they can apply for grants from state and federal governments to try to remove the sediment, which is what they need to do for their stormwater agreement. We actually, Commissioner Hoff, Manager Hoffman, whoever he is, Manager Hoffman is about a very carefully worded letter that says they can do this, but it's not our responsibility. We take no, we will not pay for this, we will not do this. And, you know, it's all a myth. I mean, that's basically it. I know you can come up with much more.
No, I couldn't say it better.
I tend to oversimplify.
I like to.
So if it's agreeable to the board, you can authorize Manager Hoffman to send the letter by motion. The letter is attached. I'm hoping y'all read it before here.
Yeah.
Okay. And it just basically outlines what I just said. The three items that are relevant to the township are: this does not obligate the township to provide funding or matching contributions. This does not assign or transfer liability to the township. This does not modify the existing easements or Huntingdon Place's responsibilities. So I actually brought this also to Nancy Genst to see what her take on it was, and she said nobody's going to give them nobody's going to give them a grant, but more power to them. And you know, if they want to try and you guys want to do this, go ahead. I don't see that it's hurting us in any way, so I figure if they want this, we can give it to them. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Tim, actually, you've seen this multiple times. Is there any way to solve this issue from this zoning in like that, or it's just a poor design and that's all?
Well, the design actually, when it was originally approved, Joe, was part of a floodplain mitigation project. And so when they, removed those old condominiums from the floodplain, they created additional flood storage space on the property. And so what's occurring with big storms is that the pennypack flows into their pond as it was intended to do. But along with that comes the silt sediment that is the floodwater. And so, correct, from time to time, that sediment builds up and needs to be removed. I don't know if there's any other way around that and still maintain the integrity of the original design. I suspect that if there was somebody on that HOA who is willing to hire some engineers and looking at new NPDES and floodplain permits, maybe some modifications, but nothing is apparent that would solve that sedimentation problem easily.
Yeah.
And just so you know, in everybody's contract, they sign that they know that this exists and they have this responsibility.
Well, that's why their HOA is astronomical down there
Yeah,
for the unit.
yeah, I mean, yeah. but, you know, it is what it is.
Look, this is the Capone problem. This is why, you know, when you have maintenance of these ponds, you know, that's ongoing as time goes on, people don't like to have to pay for them.
Yeah.
So.
I'm fine with it.
Any other questions by the board?
No.
Nope.
Any questions from the public? Anybody online? Okay. I make a motion that we authorize this letter to be sent to the Huntington Place Homeowners Association.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to authorize Manager Hoffman to send the letter to the Huntington Place Association regarding their pond maintenance as described in the letter. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's passed. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, my next item is for bid is the Historic Architectural Review Board. We approved 2 signs, the Dom Serrato, who owns Salon Moda, has opened up a barbershop and his sign was already up. But they approved it and we have copies of it in, you have copies of it in, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And then the second sign is, somebody, Mr. Kuta, I'll just stick with that. It's not very courageous. Because there's a 72 letter name there. Who seeks permission to replace a building sign. It was Babari Restaurant and now he has changed it to Andra A2 America. And again, those pictures are in your book. These were approved. Does anybody have any questions? In the public? Online? Okay, I make a motion that we accept the Historic Architect Review Board recommendations.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to accept our recommendations for the 2 applications, Salon Moda Barbershop and Andorra to America. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's passed. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, sewer department's gonna be short and sweet because Steve does a great job managing it and we had very few problems. Just so you know, there's one big project still going on at the Chapel Hill plant where one of the clarifiers has been, in Steve's word, gutted. And the new one will be coming in. We've already approved that many moves ago. Anybody have any questions on the sewer report?
Nope.
No.
Okay, that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Housen. Next, we'll open up for participation on non-agenda items. Would anybody in the room like to address the board? Come on.
Jim Sale, 2126 Winfront. This is addressed to the whole board, but Commissioner Blaine, you in particular. Earlier this year, you had mentioned quite a few times when the discussion of the reorganization process was going on, that you had a real concern that vendors maybe, that the township residents were at risk because vendors may be coming forward and suing the township for decisions that were made. I hope you have that same concern for township residents on this situation. We have an issue here where a commissioner is, shall we say, reckless in making accusations against people. And I'm talking about you, Commissioner McDade. I believe an apology is owed to Ms. Doherty for what was said at the last meeting. I think we're lucky we're not getting sued. And whether she would win the suit or not, it would certainly go to court and cost us money as far as legal fees. What was being said was an accusation was made that she wasn't suitable for deputy tax collector because of some rumors that was heard. Now, I don't believe we should be making accusations based on rumors without further due diligence. Due diligence is not going to a township mayor who is a political opponent of this person and listen to what she says and then spout that back out. You could have easily gone into the internet. Ambler has newspapers in the local area. If it was true that she had a financial irregularities in her past, it would have certainly been related to the Main Street project. It certainly would have been put into the Ambler paper and written up about. Instead, the only thing you would have found if you did any type of due diligence was you would have found an article talking about the award she won for doing such a great job on the Main Street project. In addition, you made insinuation. You didn't actually say it, but you made the insinuation that she lost her re-election campaign in 2015, I think it was, because of those irregularities. Now, you did not actually say it, but you made that insinuation. It's totally untrue. I mean, she was not had financial irregularities. In addition, it was simply the same thing as happened in townships and boroughs all over Montgomery County. They switched from Republican to Democrat, and that's why she lost. Lots of other townships that's happened. I believe it's putting the township taxpayers at risk that someone's going to get sued because of these reckless type of things. Now, we know this is the first time it's happened as a commissioner, but it's not the first time reckless accusations have been made by this individual. As you remember, that especially those who were commissioners for a few years, there was an accusation made against Commissioner Pace a few years ago, in which there was conflict of interest, and there was also financial irregularities related to Crescent Field. And this accusation was made at the end of one of the board meetings, commissioners meetings, and then at the next meeting, it came out that yes, the company that Commissioner Pace worked for was working at Crescent Field, but it was well involved in it before Commissioner Pace ever became a commissioner. And that Commissioner Pace was also working in a whole different division than what was being done there. So this is 2 times now we've had these accusations being made. And I guess actually what happened is Mr. McDade did not make the accusation. One of the commissioners made the accusations. And then at the next meeting, it turned out that they got all their information, the commissioner, from Mr. McDade, and he was upset that the commissioner mentioned his name at that time. So I think something needs to be done, or at least said, whether it's a censure or something else, concerning the fact that he's putting the township residents at risk, and because of his inability to do any type of research and just throwing stuff out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else in the room?
Am I allowed to make a comment? No,
No, it's just public. Okay, then let's
all right.
take a public comment.
Judy Moss, 144 Barberry Road. I'm here about environmental committee. I thought we had an understanding after I spoke about the murder that went on next door, that we would be talking about that. Does anybody on this panel know what the fine is for killing hatchling hawks?
If I could just jump in.
$15,000 and 6 months in federal prison.
I was going to.
Judy, Judy, if I could just jump in a second.
Commissioner Mueller, it's public comment. I know, it's public comment, and the public is giving the comment.
And you can respond.
No, it's public comment, it's not
A
public.
commissioner has the right to respond anytime they want, just as Chuck
Okay,
could respond.
can we at least allow her to finish what she's
Guys,
saying? Why are you arguing with me?
Because
I'm trying to protect this.
Wait a second. All right, wait, guys. Let's let Judy finish what you say.
We've
Yes,
asked,
I'm sorry, Judy.
this is a committee that will essentially cost nothing. You have a guy like John, who has a drone that can go up and check to see if these nests, even if the nests are just made in preparation, they still can't be destroyed. So all we're asking for is that you allow people who have an interest in the environment to make sure when huge trees are being taken down, knowing full well that hawks go to the highest tree so they can look down and see where their lunch is while they're taking care of their babies. We don't care about the people that live here already enough. They're building next to me. I don't care that there's gonna be a house there, except for the fact of how it might affect my aquifer. Because they're taking away they're adding impervious property. Which means my aquifer may not get enough water, especially right now when we're having a drought. But we don't consider that. We don't do studies and stuff to make sure that the people on well water are gonna have their wells when we keep building and building and building around us. So I'm asking again to please let us form an environmental committee of citizens that care, that we live here with, other than people, we live here with the animals who probably were here long before we were. So I'm asking again, can we have a committee? Or when I throw Spencer Tree under the bus, do I have to throw you under the bus also as being culpable by not doing your due diligence and protecting a species that is protected by the federal government?
If I could make a
Go ahead,
comment.
Commissioner Mueller, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah. So Judy, I did listen to your comments last month, and I spoke with Manager Hoffman exactly about what you're asking for. We just don't have an answer yet, but as an environmental engineer, I had the conversation with Manager Hoffman to say, is there something else that we can do? So I don't think we reached a decision yet, but it didn't fall on deaf ears.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mueller. Anybody else want to? Sean, Joe?
Nope.
Okay. All right, anyone else in the room? Anyone on Zoom? Would like to make a public comment? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion's passed. Thank you.
Well, thank you for